Do you want to be a part of the CoCo community? Sure, we all do. So join this free weekly live talk show to find out how easy it is to watch at home and learn about your color computer. At the CoCoNation, more than 9 million men and women have participated in the community without setting foot outside their homes. And now at home in your spare time, you can see what's happening, or even join the discussion. Choose from any one of these segments: panel intros, project updates, acquisitions, CoCo thoughts, featured interviews and events, the Game On Challenge, news, Ron's Garage, CoCo commercials, show coverage, panel goodbyes, or you can join one of our extra shows. You can choose from the Game On Challenge Live or CoCo Tech. Join the CoCoNation right now.
Click the link for the free information TJB Chris spoke about. Then decide if you want to watch the CoCoNation Live Show, the world's leading live weekly talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer, its siblings, cousins, and red-headed stepchildren. Visit thecoconation.com. There is no obligation, and no salesman will visit you. Visit thecoconation.com.
The CoCoNation show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCoNation show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCoNation.
Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCoNation, the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CoCoNation Show, episode 373. All right, let's see who we all got on the panel today. Top corner, we got yours truly, the button pusher. Then we got Alan, Exile in Paradise.
How'd I end up here? Howdy, everybody. Somehow,
then
I'm Marco.
Then we got Patrick Hewland.
I have you know I turned off my air conditioner so the audio will be better. So let's get to talking.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we got Ron Delvaux.
Ron Deluxe, yes. Hello, everybody from the nation. Hey, we don't have any elections going on in November. This is just the CoCoNation. We exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, those were one and done elections. Let's see. Center square, we got Henry Gernhard.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the CoCoNation. My name's Henry, and today I'm shaving plastic.
Woohoo.
Yay! And next up, we got L Curtis Boyle.
Just don't eat.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
And I still say that those things look like a waffle.
Are you hungry, Mark?
All right, on the bottom row, we got Ken Waters.
I've got my coffee, so I'm ready for the snoozy newsy.
I was waiting for you to take a drink before I announced your name.
Planning.
And let's see, Brian Wiesler.
Hello, all. Welcome to the show.
And last but not least, Marco.
Hey, how did I get demoted to the bottom row?
You're always at the top.
Last one to join.
well, last one to join. Yeah, that was it.
Well,
I
if you
was-
don't know, we're not going to tell you, Mark.
Get in the car.
You know
maintenance.
what you did. You know.
Exactly.
Know what you did.
It'll
And
be
in
on
the chat,
review.
We
in
have
the chat,
Secret
we've been
Service
joined
here.
with Alan and Wayne, Scott Cooper, Jim Rye, Davey Mitchell, Julian Brown, La Coco Strangiato, the Strangiato,
That guy.
whatever. Him, Brian Walsh, L Curtis, Mark Siegel, Tom Eric Anderson, Jim Rye. Retro, how do you pronounce that? Retro Eng?
Retro engineer, I'm guessing it's short for.
Engineer? Okay.
Mhm.
Davey Mitchell, Mike Miller, Sexy. And we're caught up. No block, not that button. Hang on, I gotta figure out how to get rid of that button before I accidentally block somebody. Dang it, go away. There we go.
I'm waiting to get kicked off the call.
For what?
Accidental button pushing.
Right. So if Mark blocks himself, what happens?
Lateral damage to button pushing.
That's right.
We got a lot of
so-
people on the chat.
Yep, got past there. So we got 25 viewers so far. Let's see. First up, project updates. Brian, what you got for us today?
Okay, so what was it? Maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I spoke about a guy that I had bought some things from, and in chatting with him, he buys storage units, and I think I kind of told the story a little bit about the fact that he had a CoCo2. And if you remember the one that I kind of showed, there was like this, you can see this glue line on there, and it looked very much like it might have been a CoCo cooler that was on there, and more specifically the CoCo Cooler 2. And so in chatting with him, he's like, well, I'll keep my eyes open. If you guys remember, like a month later, or a couple weeks later, he messaged me and said, is this what you're looking for? And so I was very excited about that. But from that same guy, he had reached out to me a little bit later. That as he continued to go deeper into this storage unit, and he came across a couple things, and he asked me if I'd be interested in them, and I was very interested in them, and we worked out a deal. And so I've had these for a little while, but I wanted to kind of share them with you guys because I had something else that I recently got that kind of maybe ties in with it. And so once you guys see these, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet with them, but sometime in the future I'll be doing something with them. So let me switch cameras here, and we'll talk about this here. So here we go. Okay.
A box.
A color computer 2 box.
2
with a melted keyboard.
Most specifically, it's a Korean color computer 2 box.
Let me go ahead and open the box, and it'll become very clear.
There's foam.
Some assembly required.
Oh,
yeah. Looks like a kit. You're right. It does
Mark
look like a kit.
is very close. So yes, if you guys remember last year, I shared some pictures. I had a Color Computer 2 kit. I brought it to not this last CoCo Fest, but the CoCo Fest in 2023. And I had that CoCo2 kit. He had this in a box, and another so it's another untouched CoCo2 kit.
Oh, wow.
All the pieces and everything are in here. Here's all your brackets. I won't take it all the way out of the box.
Some assembly required.
Yep. Yeah. So here's all the parts and everything. Here's some more stuff in front here. This would be the video type stuff. So here's the RF can.
Somebody's dream of an IT career never got anywhere.
Right.
So you even have to assemble the RF can, eh?
Yeah, the RF can that comes assembled.
Oh, it is assembled. Okay.
On.
Yep.
Oh, that's the little adapter thing, right?
Correct.
Box.
Yeah, this is what goes on the little switch box that goes on the back there, right?
The TV
Yep.
computer thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Batteries not included.
Somebody discovered girls.
I find it interesting that the box has the melted keyboard, but the actual CoCo2 is a full travel.
Right, and on the side of the box here, I'm not sure if I can tip it though, but it says the same thing that they all say, where it says 64K extended kit on it, and I believe underneath the bottom here should be where's it at?
It's possible they printed a whole lot of those boxes and then they changed the keyboard style, and it's like
this might be the one
not worth changing the box.
Just representative.
Oh, here it is. It's over here. Nope, that's not it over there.
Did they ever sell any of these kits with a T1 VDG, I wonder?
I don't know. I was just thinking this is the one where I was looking around. I forgot to put the
beautiful.
There's the board that has the chips on it, and I forgot to put that back in here. I was looking at it, and it's sitting down on my other bench there, so I'll have to dig that back out. But here's the nice manual that comes with it, where it basically takes you step by step through all the assembly of everything. So that's pretty cool. I was kind of excited about get that. So this is another one that I have with the original one that I got. If you guys remember the story, that was the one where I didn't realize that I even had it. If you guys remember that story, I still laugh at myself about that because it's like, really?
Means you have too much stuff, Brian.
Yeah,
which reminds me, for the guy with 15 color computer 2s, you're gonna never have any time to build these kits,
Right. So, and then he sent me a picture of another thing. So here's this. Let me open this box.
Looks like the same box, dude.
It looks kind of like the same box, and it has the same stuff. He had 2 kits available for me.
Wow.
So you have 3 now?
I have 3 kits.
Okay.
Do you like eye teeth, Brian?
I like IT stuff.
Because Paul Shoemaker says he's so jealous of you, he'd give an eye teeth for a kit. So it's now that you got 3 of them, maybe you can get a couple of eye teeth for it.
Time to go buy a lottery ticket, man.
Right.
I'd say.
So here's the socket set that goes with it and stuff. So, and some of these might not actually be fully complete because, for example, here's the socket set that goes with it, but the chip set is not in with this one here. I think that one might Yeah, see, so I think some of these kind of got separate. No, here's the chips. That's right. The chips are in they're in the little slider tubes there.
Tubes, static tubes.
Yep.
Paul says it's got 2 eye teeth. We have a deal?
He has what again? I'm sorry, what are we trying to trade here?
2 eye teeth.
2 eye teeth for 2 CoCo2 kits.
Oh. So yeah, I'm not sure what the I would have to take it out of here, but Curtis, to your question there, I can't remember. I think these are just the regular the non-T1
Yeah, I don't know if they ever made a kit with the T1. I'm kind of curious now that you've got such a large sampling of them that maybe they did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure here. I'd have to pull out of the bag and get those pins out, but I can look at it sometime here and we'll dig a little deeper into it.
So Brian, inquiring minds want to know your first CoCo kit.
Yeah.
Is the box also the Melty key, the Korean print?
Yep, it looks the same.
Looks the same as these two.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering if it isn't a case of where I don't know. I mean, maybe if Mark Siegel's listening to us, he can maybe
He's here.
He can chime in a little bit. Was this something that that Radio Shack did deliberately, or was this they were taking some surplus parts because they were getting ready to do the CoCo 3 and this was a way to get rid of them, or was this specifically for education?
It actually looks exactly the opposite. These were done early on for education. That's why they're in the oldest box you've ever seen.
Yep.
Just what they had early on. And,
well, and were this a stack of boxes that was laying in the warehouse? I don't know.
Well, right, because your prime A commercial product is going to go in the new boxes. And
right.
The kits you sell for school are going to go in the rack boxes that are in the back of the plant.
You wouldn't use these for retail.
Yeah, were these sold to like regular K through 12 schools, or were this only through that correspondence course?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've
understood it
ever
was
seen
for the
anything in a
correspondence
magazine
course.
yeah. But now the side of the boxes they are printed where it says kit. So, but that could have been this
Are they
could have been
printed
just
or they
a
have a
standard.
sticker?
Are they
No,
still
it's
Korean?
printed. It's printed.
It is printed. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, we got this pellet kit boxes in the back. We got to use them up.
Right. So again, this one has all the stuff here. This one's a complete one. So I think the one that I showed first didn't have this in it, but I have this in another. It's sitting there on my bench. I forgot to put it back in there. So
Mark Siegel says, I think it was for a college class in EE, which would definitely make sense.
Okay.
Did they do this with Commodores or any other machine?
No,
Commodore was known for taking all the spare parts that they had and trying to assemble and cobble machines together, didn't they? Wasn't the guy that ran Commodore known for being really
Jack
cheap
Trammell?
and trying to
Trammell, yeah.
Well, I seem to recall in the magazines that correspondence course did have other computers at different times.
Okay.
That's probably who they could get a deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
So the other thing I want to show here. So what's the one thing that we always kind of joke around about these kits whenever somebody has one?
We go, Brian got it, or what?
Well, no. People want to know, are you going to assemble it, right?
No.
Well, here's the box. And
Looks just like the other two.
It looks very similar to the other two. And
Colors spelled the same way, melty keys.
This is another color computer too.
Oh, it's got the disc manual though.
Non-melty keyboard.
The disc manual. Well, those are just some extra manuals that were in there, not the actual. Those probably shouldn't have been in this box. So this one here, I'm going to go ahead and take out here. Now this one actually had the manuals. Here's our manuals. So let me go ahead and take this one out of the box.
Assembled one then?
Mouse doo-doo in there?
Nah, just
styrofoam, I think.
The styrofoam. Oh, and I'm gonna be able to answer your question here too, Curtis, I think. If that gives any clue here. Come on.
You're going to show us the bottom or something?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. There we go.
My other question was, have you bought another one online while we've been talking?
Yeah. Nope. So here, I'll just set it back in the box here. So
ultimate black.
The bottom's going to give it away here. What don't you see on the bottom?
No
where's that dip? It's not a computer.
Serial number.
So this is a Color Computer 2 kit that was assembled. Somebody assembled it because here's some of the components. So
it doesn't work.
this is on eBay,
Nice.
and this is one that was out there, and the listing looked like just a regular color computer too, until I was looking at the pictures a little bit closer, and I saw that the stickers were completely gone on the bottom.
No serial number, no
serial
sealed
number, no nothing. I mean, and
no
it's not
sealed?
like it came off. This is
No, no.
smooth,
There's
clean.
not even a well for a sticker on the bottom.
Right. So
Yeah.
this, and looking at it a little bit closer, and then when I got it, I was 100% confirmed because the assembly manual was in the box. So
There
this
you
is
go.
an assembled one. I didn't assemble it. Somebody at one point assembled it, probably that took the course. But they, where'd that bag go? Here it is. But it's not 100%. I need to do a few things here. So here's the screws that go in there. Here's the little metal clips, you know, that
Right.
go along the edge of the board right
Support.
here, where the keyboard, and then also in here you can kind of see that the copper.
Mhm.
I guess I can take it out of here. Let me see here.
Oh, the copper tape to put the heat shield on.
Yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
grounds it for the RF noise. So it's not 100%, 99.9% assembled. But I've
enough
not
it'll
fired-
turn on.
What's that?
Enough it'll turn on.
Enough it should turn on, and the it's a where are we at here? It's a MC6847P.
That's a regular
Mhm.
VDG then, I believe.
So, and there are a couple resistors that are kind of on the surface here that kind of wrap around and stuff. So I haven't fired this thing up yet, but I will be to see if it actually works though. So this would be, so I guess if somebody ever asks, you know, are you going to assemble one? Well, here's an assembled one. So
So that RF modulator is the vertical one, which I believe is the US version.
Yeah, it's the first
Okay.
generation CoCo2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Mark Siegel's saying this must have been the instructor's copy.
Oh, okay.
Did no student ever successfully make one of these?
Oh, right.
Right.
So notice the black around the keyboard. And
Well,
that's,
so you didn't glue
that-
anything together, so you could take it all back apart again and demonstrate it. and-
So none of those machines had a sticker for the bottom.
None of the
Nope.
kits did.
No serial numbers, no stickers, no nothing.
Didn't have to be, nor could it be FCC certified because Tandy
Yep.
didn't
So
build
could
it,
you
so
could you take
it's
those in
okay.
for service at Radio Shack if you had assembled one and you had a problem?
Yeah, you probably have to pay for the full repair though,
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
definitely no
because basically they
warranty.
go, you assemble this yourself, you screwed it up, so just pay us whatever we need to fix it.
Standard chop rates apply.
Right?
Plus, I mean, Radio Shack back then only had what, a 90-day warranty, if I remember.
Right.
Sounds right. I think so. So, but yeah, here's the assembly manual, and then of course the other two manuals that came with it. And someone must have actually used this because, as Curtis noticed, there was a disc manual. There was even an ed tasm in here too.
Oh, wow.
And let's see here, what else we got here? There was also, here's an OS9 system.
Oh, I like this
master.
guy who built
Level
this
one?
already.
So,
Level 1.
Yep, version 2.0.
Yep, that's the later one that added in support for the T1 VDG hidden away, but also added support for the Tandy hard drives and stuff too.
And this looks like it might be a copy or something, not sure, but there was also a little service manual for the disk interface was in
Yeah.
there. So
Looks like a photocopy. Yeah.
let's see, what was this here?
3022, that'd be the very first model.
Oh, that's nothing there. So
That's
anyway,
the old 12 volt,
Yeah.
the
That's,
1793 versus the 73.
Yeah.
What's the
That's
difference between a disk interface and a disk controller?
A word.
Nothing.
Right.
Verbiage.
Semantics.
Did they start using the word controller later?
Probably. Technically, they're both. They are an interface and a controller.
Yeah.
Intercontroller.
So yeah, so I mean, I know there's a few of them that are out there. I know, I believe,
And you have
Bo-
4
I
of them
believe
now.
Boise has one,
Right.
and who else had one? One of the guys that does a lot of the game. His score is usually at the top there.
Buck Owens or Scott Cooper,
Cooper,
or
Scott Cooper.
Might be Buck
Dr.
Owens. I think somebody that does it. I think might be Buck Owens has one of these, and his is assembled. So
So,
Yes.
Brian, there's a request on the chat that since you have so many copies of the assembly instructions, you should make sure that gets scanned and updated. It appears there's not
Yes.
one on the archive.
oh, okay.
Brian, I can't remember. Were you the one who got the unassembled one over at CoCo Fest this year?
No, that was oh shoot, who was that?
Somebody else.
Yeah,
Somebody
there
other
you
than
go.
Brian.
So
No, I
Brian owns
didn't,
four.
I didn't even bid against it.
Like he needs another one.
Right. Well, so Brian owns four, and we know of four other ones. This is what we've got to.
I think Zipster has one too, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah, I
five
think he
other
does.
ones.
He may have one.
I think he had pictures of it on the site at one point.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Okay, I'll stuff this all back together later. Okay, and then the one other thing I wanted to share. Whoops.
He has another deluxe CoCo.
No.
Yeah. With the final ROMs.
Right.
Exactly.
Oops. Okay, this one I'm going to go ahead and switch my screens here real quick. There we go.
Type clear.
There we go. So
That's
with
better.
with a little help from Alan, Mr. Exile in Paradise, I had these this little HP box that I had. It was just a small little thing. It's actually about the size of a, I don't know, it's about 9 by 9 by 1 inch. It's these small little HPs. And
Small
I may have to have
factor.
Alan chime in here and help me a little bit here, or those of you that are familiar with MAME. But I finally had a chance to get myself a little MAME box going here. So some of you probably seen it, probably many of you have, but for me, this was my first attempt at it. Let's see what happens here. There we go. Okay, and this happens to me, and I forget how to back out of this so I can kick it off again, because I've been told that this can happen sometimes where it locks.
Yeah,
And so I need to be able to exit out of this thing. Does anybody know how to do that in
Scroll lock, home end, something like that, on the control keys?
Yeah, scroll lock and escape or something to get out.
Try end.
What's David saying here? I have David Last posting something there. So
Yeah. So I'm not sure what the default to bring the UI up is. But on
It's usually escape tab, isn't it? Or scroll lock tab, isn't it? Not the default.
scroll lock tab or something like that. I have mine set up so that insert is what brings up the UI.
Oh, insert, yeah. Well, that's your.
Yeah, because depending on the keyboard, like if you have a laptop, you may be missing some of the keys that it
David Ladd
defaults
said
to.
Windows scroll lock.
Whoops! No,
Yeah.
welcome to the.
That's what I usually use is if I have a full keyboard, it's scroll lock and then tab to bring up the menu.
Okay, then how do I end? Anybody know how I end one?
No, that's.
Then it's escape. Usually, if you're in the partial emulation mode, then you should be able to hit escape to get out of it.
That's what I thought. And see, that's what.
Hit end.
That's not aim.
But
MAME,
when you hit
though,
scroll
that's,
lock, it's not bringing up your partial versus full emulation, so that doesn't look like the key that's mapped. Or do you have a scroll lock on that keyboard?
Does MAME
yeah, I do have a scroll lock. Yep. So anyway, I was going to show it up with the CoCo3 there. Looks like Alan might be busy with something there.
Try the key end and see if that works.
I have, Ron.
Oh, did you?
No, I'm just
Paul Shoemaker suggests the MAME lock issue can be fixed by uninstalling Linux and installing Windows. Shots fired.
Throw a Control C at it and see.
Because I have to say, I've never seen this lockup running the Windows or the Mac version of MAME.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure MAME still has focus and it's getting.
Brian always has
right?
the things that have extra
Does
goodies
the
on it.
ancient and honorable Control C do anything?
No.
Now,
Paul Shoemaker suggested hitting F12 then tab, maybe? You have an F12 on your keyboard?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, you probably have to go through one of the config files and figure what it's currently got mapped for the.
Well, but no. When I was running this the first time, this happened, and then I was able to bail out and then kick it off again. And I can't remember how to end the program.
You can force quit it, I guess.
Mark Siegel says power switch. Brian Walsh says for me it's shift. Rocky Hill says Control Alt T and get a terminal, and then type kill all MAME.
Oh, and then kill it.
Yeah, I'm on my extended Mac keyboard. I use F14 because it isn't used by anything else, so it's a nice safe one. Most
Kill
keyboards
what?
don't have that.
Kill
space.
Kill all. K-I-L-L. No, one word. K-I-L-L-A-L-L. No, one word. Yep. K-I-L-L-A-L-L space.
MAME.
Yep. So up arrow, space, MAME. M-A-M-E.
All lowercase.
There we go.
And it's gone.
Okay.
This time with feeling.
What's that?
This time with feeling.
Is that with feeling? Did it again.
That's because we're watching. Could everybody
Right?
just close their eyes for 2 seconds?
Everyone turn their backs.
We promise we won't look, Brian.
Now you have to type fix all MAME, so it'll fix the program so it doesn't crash.
Well, let me try this real quick here. And then if this doesn't work, we'll just bail. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, I'm finally kind of broadening my horizon a little bit there. And
Try dash debug too, so if it brings up the debugger and you can see what it's doing.
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. If you do a minus debug, MAME CoCo3 minus debug, then that will definitely not do anything until you hit F5.
David Ladd
dash
says, according
debug.
according to the MAME documentation on Linux, tab is your key.
Okay. So in the MAME debugger, you click on that. You click on that. You hit F5, and that'll go ahead and start up the CoCo.
You find out where it hangs.
Oh, no, it's doing something.
It's sitting with an interrupt,
running.
yeah, RTI routine.
It's running.
Yeah.
It's
What's
formatting.
what's the screen show?
You don't have any ROMs in it?
Nothing.
That might be it.
Yeah, maybe you
It
don't
said
have a
the
ROM.
ROM
there.
is, it says the
Yeah,
ROM
but
is
Except it's
okay, though.
executing the ROM, and even I saw one of the vector table
No,
there
yeah, it is.
showed up, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's just not happy. Oh,
No. Anyway, I thought maybe I'd show this real quick here, but anyway, I want to keep playing with it a little bit because I know there's some of you out there that really like the MAME, and it can be, it has its place for some things. Also, too, we got the deluxe ROMs out there in MAME, so
Which worked nicely. Well,
Yes.
maybe not in your case right now. But
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it's still kind of running here, isn't it? It's like it's doing something, but nothing up on the screen here. So
yeah.
yeah, like there just went to the vector table for the interrupts. So the interrupts are passing
It's
through.
like it looks like it's caught in an interrupt loop.
Yeah.
It's formatting the disk.
The demo gods have spoken.
Did
And
you
it's in
mention
the
it?
color basic ROM that right there when you're in the A's XXX range, that's in the color basic ROM. So
okay.
Hit tab and see if the menu comes up.
Did you sure you install all the proper hardware in your virtual CoCo?
Well, in my notes, all I have is MAME space CoCo3 div, and it would bring it up.
yeah, you have to have the various ROMs. You obviously got the color basic ROM because
Right, the ROMs were in
that's what we're
there.
looking
Yeah, they were in the right folder there. But anyway, I'll have to play with it more. But we can
Just out of
stop for now
curiosity,
here.
do you have ROMs for the CoCo 1 or 2 installed?
CoCo3 ROMs. Well,
You
with
don't have any of the other
extended
ones?
basic. No, nothing else right now. So
I was just wondering if you tried like running MAME CoCo 2 if it would work. It's
oh,
just a CoCo 3
I don't
situation.
know.
Because if you have color basic ROM and the extended basic ROM, that should be enough to boot a CoCo 2.
Try it.
Depends on if it's the right set of ROMs.
Isn't it still running? Okay.
Whoops.
Kill all MAME.
Yeah, you
Oh.
typed it the other way. You're trying to get MAME to run the kill all machine.
Oh, sorry. I'm not a Unix guy here, so this is all
Yet.
new.
Unix guy yet.
We'll get you there.
Yes.
It is it is the superior
con-
interface.
We will convert you to the dark side yet.
I don't think it ever left, did it?
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, that never went away.
That's the old one.
That's still CoCo3.
It's in a window at least.
Oh, your debugger and
Maybe I'll kick
everything
the close
is.
box and kill it off here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hit-
well, yeah, because you've got the debugger running and all this other stuff, so you can't just.
yeah, close it.
Basic
X-
12.rom not found.
There you go.
Oh well.
So, well, anyway, we'll more to come. I just thought maybe I'd take a moment to share that real quick there, but not quite. Wasn't quite ready to go. So anyway.
Exile says, Money says it's time for Kill Dash 9. Take them all out.
I haven't listened to that in forever.
Kill Dash 9, because it's your time to shine. Oh, yeah.
Rocky Hill says P-Kill. I've heard of that one too.
Doesn't the dash 9 mean replace Linux with OS 9? That's what I
No,
thought it meant.
kill dash 9 means like You got Kill Dash 1, which is tapping on the shoulder, said, "Excuse me, sir, you're taking up too much CPU time." And then each time you increase the number, you go farther and farther until Kill Dash 9 is basically, well, I'm not going to describe it because
I'm not asking.
Yeah. It's like thermonuclear wartime. It's like
Yeah.
trying to detonate
pretty
the big
much.
one.
Anyway, Brian, while we were talking, we got an update from Franklin Harris in the chat here. It says, "Afternoon, kids. We have picked up the pieces after the flood," which we've talked about the last while. They got tremendously flooded. Then he had a second flood. If you had a few weeks back. For those of you who've been patiently waiting for the CoCo SDC, production started an hour ago. And they
Awesome.
should be back in stock in the next few days. And I know Ed Snyder had actually gotten 10 more up on his site. I don't know if there's still any left, but
9.
Way to go, Frank. Glad to hear things are recovering.
Yeah, I looked earlier. He had 9 up there. All right.
so at least there's some places you can get one right now. And then once Frank's cut in production, there's a second place and you can start getting them on a regular basis again. Because I know there's quite a few people waiting and both of them were out of stock. Well, Frank for obvious reasons, and then Ed because he rotates through various things that he's producing. And he cranked out 10 CoCo STCs last week, I think.
Okay. Any other project updates? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then game on.
Sure. You'll have to shake Ken awake again, but
I'm awake. I'm awake.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome everybody to the CoCoNation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Storm Arrows. We had a total of 15 players. We had Mr. Dave 6309 with 3350, Mike with 5900, Coconut Bob with 7650, Ed Rhodes 10,800, Stratofall 11,850, Jim Rye 16,300, Bill Athing 17,750, Canadian Retro Things 21,350, Jason Warrens 21,750, Sloopy Malibu 24,160, Shenley 28,850, L Curtis Boyle 33,100, Retro Rick 37,050, Tasman 89,450, and this week's number one score belongs to Dr. Ted with 129,900. Thanks everybody that played. We'll see you again next week.
Okay, and the CoCoNation salutes Dr. Ted.
Salute. All right, so that was Storm Arrows, and I did manage to find.
Don't use that color anymore.
Yeah, that was hard to read.
I know.
I'm just glad you remembered my score this week.
Oh. That's not what I meant to share. I was thinking about leaving it off, but what am I trying to find here? I guess it's in here. There we go. So in Rainbow of when was it? It was October 1984. I did find some scores for Storm Arrows. And as you can see, the number one score at 168,000. A little bit higher than what we scored in the last 2 weeks, but definitely probably a score that is attainable. And of course, somebody from Canada was in the top 3, so that's always good. And for reviews, I found in Hot CoCo May of 1984, a quick little write-up of Storm Arrows. Basically, the guy was saying that Storm Arrows appears to be a less interesting game than the other ones they were reviewing.
Now you're
But-
putting up against Cashman and Chopper Strike. Yeah, I would say so. But it's also older than the other ones by at least a year.
And he also says then again, a chessboard would look less interesting than, say, a Candyland board. But Storm Arrows uses simple elements to provide good arcade action, especially for those with color basic machines. So I actually didn't know that this actually would run in color basic. You didn't even need extended basic for it.
Nope. Most machine language games they didn't use the ROMs because the ROMs are too slow for doing graphics and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. But unfortunately, the drawback of the game is the joystick controls. It was difficult to position the stick correctly to make the necessary quick turns. And I would say, yeah, but it didn't take very long to get used to that. So,
No, I didn't have a problem with that either.
That was a common complaint by a lot of people that were playing it this week, the last 2 weeks also, that but the game is designed so that there isn't actually, everybody kept trying to find the perfect center spot where you would stop moving.
And there's no such thing.
There's no such thing in this game. So
it's like Neutroid that way.
Yeah. If you tried to move it into the center spot where you technically would stop moving, you're just going to turn in a random direction because it's going to, whichever one you're slightly off on the axis, that's the way you're going to turn. So. But I think that's actually a fairly faithful version of the arcade game. And,
Agreed. Targ, for those who don't know.
Yeah, Targ from Exidy. There's also was discussion in the Game On Challenge there about how people were talking about how they like the Atari or Apple version better, but I would almost say those are different games. Those are games that are inspired by this game, but I wouldn't even say they're the same game because there's just quite a few different elements in them.
Yeah. I also saw that a couple of the top two scores that you had in our high score list today actually got far enough where you start getting the invisible maze.
Yeah.
I don't think they took any screenshots, or at least I didn't see any in the brief time I looked there, but they were definitely talking about it where it gets a bit harder because you can't even see where you have to turn.
Yeah. Although it's pretty easy. Every screen is laid out in the same grid. So
yeah.
It's actually the sequel to this game, which I can't remember the name of right now, where it gets actually a little harder because each level has different dead ends and stuff in them. So
I wasn't aware whether there was a sequel.
Yeah. Give me 2 seconds and I will.
Yeah, so there's not much to see in a screenshot of the invisible maze.
Okay, so Targ video game. Spectre.
I don't recall that one.
I vaguely remember it.
I'm gonna take a look now. I'm curious.
Here, I'll just share a quick screenshot here of what the maze in Spectre looks like. So as you can see, they've got different shapes. Every level has different shapes in it, and I think you have to pick up the dots that are in the middle.
So it's kind of a Pac-Man added on with
yeah.
I'm assuming those mazes are variable as you progress levels too.
Yeah, they change it. It creates different little dead ends and stuff in each maze. So as I said, I think I vaguely remember seeing this game once when I was a kid, so I don't think this was nearly as popular as Targ was. So, for tips and tricks of playing that game. Storm arrows.
Just don't.
Don't shoot your little toilet seat ring that gives you free bullets.
And I disagree with Mark on don't. It's actually quite an enjoyable game once you get into it. I found a good strategy is just to kind of pick one lane. I always picked a vertical lane and I just went back and forth on it, and I waited for the ships to come down, and then once you've destroyed all but a couple of the ships, then you can start hunting them down. But as long as you stay on one lane going back and forth, then you usually can get almost all the ships to come down to you.
Yeah, I'm getting used to doing a quick reverse where you like the regular ships you travel faster than them, especially at the beginning. So you go you lead them on for a bit, then you just do a quick reverse fire and then back again, and then you'll just clean them right out. The more powerful ship I think is the same speed as you, so that's a bit more timing. You kind of have to go around a couple corners to kind of throw them off a bit, so you have a bit of a lead. But then the same strategy works.
But also the other thing is to watch your shots, because you can only have one shot on the screen at a time. Yep. So don't accidentally fire off a shot and then quickly turn around and try to shoot something behind you while your shot is still on the screen, because then you just ram them and die.
Yeah. Like me, it sounds like you speak from experience on that.
Maybe just a little bit. So, does anybody else have anything other than Mark saying don't play the game?
Which Mark said don't play the game?
Marco.
Oh, okay.
It was
He's the one that
exercise and frustration.
That's because it's a real game, not something you're going to find on the Apple.
Yeah, the arcade game was pretty frustrating too, from what I remember. But since it was an earlier game, like 1980, it was pretty addictive. It was one of the earlier color games.
So that's why he was playing on the Apple II during the Game On Live.
Yeah, this coming from the guy that played on the Atari during the Game On Live.
Yeah, to show what it looked like on the Atari. But I also actually played Storm's Arrow. Because other than issues with the controls, it's not a bad game.
And actually, I never really had issues with the controls. I just, a couple of times I did take kind of wonky turns because...
I guess it depends too. Like how, like Mark and Sloopy here, did you guys ever play the arcade game? Because you couldn't stop there either. So it was the same controls. So
the stopping wasn't my issue. My issue was like when I'm going straight up with no input on the controllers, I would start turning left.
Exactly. If you don't have any input, you have to keep your controller in the direction you want to go, or it will turn on you.
Yeah, because it'll float right around the center point a little bit.
Yeah, well,
because if you're floating your joystick at the center point, it's going to be off in one of four directions, and that's the way you're going to turn.
Yes,
even if it's only like 1 point off.
Yeah, but it shouldn't do that. There should be a slight dead zone.
No, it should do that because that's how it's designed. So that because
the original arcade game you can.
On the joystick.
I mean, the original arcade game, I don't think it would randomly pick, but if you left in the center, basically you're traveling the direction you were going in the first place, and you just keep going until you hit a wall.
I mean, if your joystick is perfectly aligned to center at 0, 0, then you wouldn't turn. But if you're aligned at -1, 0, then you're going to always turn in that one direction.
Yeah, it should be like 3 or 4 minimum in order for you to turn.
So what you're saying is that the joystick routine should have had a bigger 0 point.
It's called a dead band. Basically, it's an area which doesn't have any value or any effect.
Or you just keep your joystick pointed in the direction you want to go.
That's what I'm used to that from the arcade game. So
yeah,
that's exactly what it did.
You can't get lazy and take your finger off the joystick. I guess is the point.
I came from a system that actually had working controls.
I was very unhappy with it. Even if I tried leading it by, like pressing left and down, it would like miss the corner and keep going. It's like, no.
Yeah, it basically reads one direction at a time. I think it has a certain order. Like if you're doing a diagonal, I think it picks the one for axis first every time.
That could be. So. Do not recommend this
Yeah, it's
game.
definitely designed for a 4-way joystick. But yeah. Well, that's unfortunate because it is actually I thought it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, I agree with Ken on that. I mean, it's an earlier one too, so it's like a 1982 era.
Yeah.
So this game was released before the C64 even hit the shelves. And it's
And
like
also-
you mentioned, it's the closest clone of Targ I've seen on any 8-bit computer. The other ones, like the ones that Mark and Sleepy were playing on the Apple and the Atari, have some differences to the arcade game. So if you're an arcade purist, this is probably the better one.
Yeah.
But you had to have liked the original arcade game and its control system. If you didn't like the arcade one, you wouldn't like this one either, because they're basically identical.
Yeah. Nick Parentes, I know he probably played this game lots this week.
I played Neutroid.
Because he wanted a real challenge.
Well, he wanted controls pretty well identical to Storm Arrows then, because that's pretty well the same thing.
Yep. Except that you got turned around 180 degrees in Neutroid.
Yeah, 60 says, I thought I remembered liking it, but I did try it, didn't submit a score, and really didn't. So he's on Mark's side. Scott Cooper says using arrow keys was horrible. Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess because that was one of the first games I ever got.
Yeah.
Third party wise.
I guess
so
I definitely have a nostalgia for this because of playing it in the arcade quite a bit. So
yeah, and for me, the arcade and the Spectral version, that was one of the earliest Spectral games I ever saw. TRS80 Retroprogramming is asking the chat, is there a CoCoTron? There are multiple ones, so take your pick.
Yep,
There's
there's,
Cron by Oregon Computer Systems, Electron by Spectral Associates come to mind.
Oh, and David Ladd says that he's glad he was without power and couldn't play it. So
Didn't miss anything, David Ladd.
I guess.
David, did you ever try this back in the day? I guess is the question.
No, I did not.
Have you ever tried the arcade game? Because it wasn't a super common one.
No, I did not do that either.
You probably were too young.
Well,
That's
I
funny
played
because-
a lot of Dig Dug, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man. Not this game. No.
Yeah, this is older than Donkey Kong. It's older than Dig Dug. Pac-Man was 1982 or 1980 as well, I believe. So
Yeah. So this was it's funny because you're saying that this was, I guess this wasn't a common video game, but there's basically 3 arcades where I spent most of my childhood in, and all 3 had a version of this game, had a copy of this game in it.
yeah, I knew two
There's two
arcades here that had it at the time.
There was 2 arcades in North Battleford that had it, and then the one arcade actually out here in the town near my cabin had this game too.
I guess
Anyways.
if you like the original arcade game, I don't think you'll mind this game. If you don't like the controls in the original arcade, you will not like this one. So
Yeah, apparently we're in the minority for liking this game, but that's fine.
that's because us
Um,
Canadians are superior game players. I think is what we're
well,
trying to say.
And it's also, you know,
Very possible.
Quite honestly, I mean, there's people with taste and people without, and we know where we fall.
And then there's people like Nick who hate everything but his own stuff. But
Sure.
And
You guys are just
so
horrible.
Canadians aren't really as nice as we're supposed to be. So
no, we're great
That's a
actors.
stereotype.
That's what we are.
yeah, so the other game that we played this week was Goop Rush, which is a slightly different version of Ghost Rush with some definitely different elements than the other versions of Ghost Rush that we've seen have. So
I still haven't even had a chance to play it. I was too busy with work this week. And it looks like the start my weekend, I'm working and I've got another job I just found out this morning is coming in next week too. So I'm not sure when if I'm gonna have time. I didn't even get a chance to even watch the game on Challenge.
So Goop Rush is The different elements that you have are that you have a radiation meter on the side of the screen, so you can actually get hit and brush up against the things that are falling a few times until your radiation meter fills up. And because you're basically in a radioactive land, because this is all based on Fallout, the Fallout series of games, or for some people that maybe have never played the Fallout TV series. You're always your radiation level is always going up throughout the game, or throughout the when you're playing. So if you take too long to get your pills and stuff, your radiation will rise and you could die.
And for those that didn't catch the show last week or the Game On Challenge here, David Ladd just posted the link directly to the itch.io page that Paul has Goop Rush chat. If somebody can copy that who has permission to put it into the general chat so we can share it with people that are watching.
I'll also be putting it in the Discord channel for Game On Challenge Discord channel. So
thanks, Mark.
It's done.
Definitely a good game that I recommend. It's a lot of fun, especially if you enjoyed the Ghost Rush games. This one is different enough that it's not just another Ghost Rush game. So,
yep, 64K CoCo 1, 2, or 3 required.
Yep,
and a joystick with a working button. Don't care about the potentiometers; they can be totally screwed, but you have to have the button work.
Yeah, you don't have to be able to center your joystick in this one, Mark and Sloopy.
I know. I think it works on the Dragon also.
Yep. Yep. And a CP400 and a Kodamax.
But does it work on the emulators?
I'm sure it does. I haven't had a chance to try it even on real hardware, so.
I played it on VCC, so I know it works on that.
And you want me to put on the Game On Challenge video?
Sure.
Sure. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it yet, so yeah, I'd like to see it.
Let's hear Sloopy talk about the Game On Challenge live show that we did.
Oh, me?
Yep, you.
We had another great episode of the CoCoNation Game On Challenge Live, where we had, I do believe, 6 or 7 players at one point.
I think we had at least 7 at one point.
Yeah, it's quite popular. I'm glad.
Possibly even, we might even have had 8 if Coconut Bob had been able to show his screen.
Yeah.
Oh, how come he couldn't show his screen?
Bad internet connection.
You're familiar with that phenomenon.
Yeah.
He was using his dial-up.
I see some people are playing the CoCo 3 with custom colors too, and then the rest looks to be more.
Yeah, so here we would have had 8 players if Coconut Bob's screen had been working.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a screen up there, so, but he's got a placeholder.
Yeah, he's got a placeholder, so.
6, so 9?
Well, no, 1,
or
2,
8.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
8.
8, yeah.
I believe the author, Paul, is in the chat. Was he on the show, perchance?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
We had a couple of Pauls on the show.
Yeah.
Which other one showed up?
Mr. Thayer showed up too.
Oh, wow. Haven't seen him in a while.
We had a couple of Pauls, a couple of Chris's, and a couple of Marks.
We were seeing double.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we only had 1 Ken. But we were.
And you had 0 Curtises, so that was even a better show.
Yes, we were noticeably lacking any Curtises. So.
Sir, I was busy making money. For a change.
You're supposed to be making dollars, not change.
And there's Mark in the middle, just thoroughly enjoying storm arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the big wide grin on his face. He's just so happy about the steering mechanism.
Mm-hmm. It's all faked. Trust me.
So he's happy there's not.
That's AI. It's AI.
He's just happy there's not cat vomit running down his back.
Yep. That almost happened a couple weeks ago.
And for those that want to participate, we should mention that Goop Rush is free, correct? That's
Yes.
one that Paul put up for free on his child.
Link is posted in the chat. It's also on the Game On Challenge Discord channel at the CoCoNation.
Well, the reason I mention it is because some of the games you get on itch.io you do have to pay for. So if somebody's like really broke and just can't afford it right now, then this one you don't have to worry about that.
And he doesn't even try to put any guilt into it. He doesn't even have a donate button on it. So if you do,
I just saw he's going
donate
through some different color modes too on his shared screen here. There's some pretty nice ones in there. I like I said, I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, on CoCo3s, if you just hit the P key, you can change the palette. I think it also works on the CoCo1 too, but you have a much more limited change of palettes.
I'm waiting for Paul's first semi-graphics game now. Which we'll be talking about a little bit more later in the news.
So, Sloopy, when and where can we play this live stuff?
You can play anytime, but if you want to join us on the CoCoNation Game On Challenge Live, then join us Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on the CoCo Discord. And then
what channel in the CoCo Discord?
The Game On Challenge Live.
Oh, hey, that makes sense.
And then after that, on Saturday, you join us for the CoCoNation show, where you can see the high score. Oh, wait, sorry. Wrong script. That's the ending script.
Line.
Yeah.
Geez, I think Mark is looking like he's having so much fun playing Storm Arrows. Maybe I should do Storm Arrows for 2 more weeks. Again.
With mandatory Mark participation.
Yes. Yeah, with more Mark participation, more Curtis participation.
I'm in rush season, so I can't guarantee participation for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, but you posted the score, and I even remembered to put it into the high score list this time.
Yeah, that was the most impressive part to me.
Yeah, I won't mention that you got my score wrong, but then that was my fault.
I did?
Yep.
He did say it was his fault, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but
I don't know either. Did you write the wrong score down?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I didn't even. Well, I don't always look at the screenshots because sometimes they're a little blurry to actually read what the scores say. So I have to trust what.
Yeah.
I thought you were just having so much fun playing. You never had time to post one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I was too embarrassed.
We have to make a special head-to-head version of Storm Arrows that Mark can play against Sloopy. That'd be awesome with the standard joystick controls it has.
Yeah, mine was 24,150, and I wrote 24,160.
Oh, that wouldn't have
so
changed.
He's cheating,
your
is what he's
position.
saying.
Yeah,
it would not have changed your position, so that's fine.
No.
So now we're going to find that the written score is going to start drifting from the posted score.
Oh, great. Now I'm going to have to start looking at the pictures closer.
That cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is just transpose better numbers. So instead of 24,150, I'll have to put 42,150.
Are you going to the Nick Marenti's school of high scoring?
No, that's straight up Photoshop. I'm just talking about posting the right score on the screen, but when you just type it out.
Oops, fat finger.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, have a little bit of dyslexia.
All right. Well, so be there on Thursday nights. You can come in and play the game. You can play it on real hardware. You can play it on an emulator. You can even use the Play Now button on the Color Computer Archive, and then just share your screen from there. So,
is Goop Rush on the Color Computer Archive?
No, but the other games are.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people weren't trying to find it there. That
at least I don't think it is yet.
I mean, if I remember the online, if you run the Explorer online emulator directly, you actually have the option to upload a disk image to it. So if you download it yourself, you can throw it up there and mount it that way, which works pretty good on the floppy disk images because they're small. It takes quite a while if you're trying to do a hard drive image.
Yeah. And even if you don't feel like playing, you just want to hang out and talk to us, then you can join and do that. So be there.
Or you can just play it. You can join us and talk to us and play at home and not share your screen.
Yep.
Also, David Ladd notes in our internal chat here, it says, unless your DSL is only 384 kilobits per second upload speed.
Oh my goodness. Wouldn't that be great if I was that high?
Yeah.
So look, then Monty Python's Kit, that's luxury. I used to play from a shoebox on the side of the seashore.
With string.
My first modem was 300 baud acoustic. I don't want to hear this.
Your first modem was what?
300 baud acoustic.
Yep.
Acoustic couple. Yep.
Yep.
It was
I upgraded to a JCAT 300 auto answer after that.
Yeah, my first modem was a.
Yeah, but
Atari
we didn't have
830.
Zoom back then.
I was an Apple guy. I had a 300 1200.
So you're rich. Well, if you're an Apple guy, you're rich to begin with. So
exactly. Well, I did get the cheapest one I could get was 300 1200.
now you have a choice when you're exiting high school. I can buy a car or I can buy an Apple II.
Right on.
Ah! I like that.
They were about the same price.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, who wants to know what next week's game is going to be?
Sorry, just a bit of nostalgia with the 8-bit wars back in the day.
Yeah.
And hey, Curtis, I wouldn't get too into that war because what are you using right now to watch this show on and transmit on?
And an 11-year-old Mac because I can't afford to upgrade it.
So you're still an Apple guy then?
No, I used Apple IIs at school before I even got a CoCo, so and a pet for that matter. I just when I had to buy stuff for home, I went for the cheapest thing I could find at the time, which was the CoCo that actually had color and sound and a really good basic. That was what sold me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, me too. All right, so this upcoming game that we will be playing for the next 2 weeks. Of course, we will be playing Goop Rush for one more week. And this one.
Looks like a brick
Ooh,
game.
I got to figure out which one this is. This could be Bash or it could be Arkanoid. Both by the same author.
Haven't we played Arkanoid?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I thought.
that doesn't.
I'm gonna go with Bash.
Yeah.
Well,
we're both wrong.
Well, it's definitely one of those. It's Steve Bjork game. I'm just not sure which one.
You're correct.
Oh, okay.
It is Bash. So, yeah, and yes, we
Which
have
has
played
some
Arkanoid.
differences from Arkanoid. There's no bullet firing
right?
Power up, I believe.
And there's
a
no
lot more
alien-
multi-balls, if I remember.
Yep, and there's no alien, and I don't know in Arkanoid if you got 3 balls on the screen and you get another multi-ball, it adds like 2 more balls to the mix, so you got 5. And I don't think Arkanoid does that. I think you can only have a maximum of 3 on the screen at once.
Yeah, I think I've had Bash up to like 9.
Yeah.
Who's the other Bjork that's on the screen here?
Monique.
That's his ex-wife.
Okay.
Monique Ellison was her maiden name, and she Pete Ellison, her brother, was the person that ran GamePoint Software. That sold both Nick's stuff and Steve's stuff.
But it said the graphics were done. Is she into programming?
He was a
or
graphics
she
artist. She did most of the stuff during that time period, the late 80s, early 90s. So she did the graphics for like Super Pitfall and Mine Rescue and Arkanoid and Bash. And she was quite a good graphics artist. She was at CoCo Fest with him a few times. I met her a couple times, both before and after they were married.
So that is the game for the next 2 weeks. And that is all that I have to say.
Okay. Let's go ahead and run a commercial break and then news.
Actually, I'm going to do, well, it's kind of part of the news, but it's basically, we've got some reports from VCF West.
Okay.
This just in.
All right. Commercial break first.
Yeah.
Woo.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCoNation show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
Hello everyone, it's your good buddy, your good pal Amigo, and joined by that dastardly The Brent from ARG Presents.
You're watching CoCoNation.
I feel like that should have been longer.
The CoCoNation show would like to thank the following patrons: Alex Gayer, Brandon Dunny, Brian Walsh, Brian Wiesler, Karen Anscombe, Coconut Bob, Daddy Burrito, David Ladd, Derek Smithson, Diego BF109, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Wabke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Warrens, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Kevin Holloway, Paul Fiscarelli, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, The Break Key, TJB Chris, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., and William A. Thing. Thank you so much, patrons. If you would like to support the CoCoNation show, please sign up at patreon.thecoconation.com.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
JB says, "Hi, I'm JB, I like all kinds of retro computers. I just got my first CoCo. It's a Model 26-3136 with 16K. It was sold on eBay as untested, but I hooked it up to my TV and it works. I got a cheap tape recorder on Amazon and the cable to hook it up. That should arrive today. After that, the first order of business will probably be a composite mod and RAM upgrade, and I plan to eventually get a CoCo SDC." Craig says, "I came looking to see if anyone talked about artifacting colors, but I found CoCo VGA who had a page on it. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Glenside Computer Club, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCoNation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com.
See you on Discord.
Okay, we are back.
Okay, so we got a couple reports from in the field, as it were. Michael Furman is actually attending, and so is Henry Strickland. So Mike uploaded last night kind of a walkthrough. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's an hour and a half. But he did cover some stuff that was CoCo and OS9 related, so I thought I'd highlight those a bit, and then we'll go through some pictures that Henry took. So first one here is actually a person's table that actually has a bunch of 6800 systems and stuff, and he actually has some of the stuff for RT68, which is the 6800 real-time operating system kernel that predates OS9, but was by the same authors, Ken Kaplan stuff. This is their university project originally. What Microware was founded on. So bit of history, interesting history there.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hearing that?
Hearing it? No.
No?
Sharing audio?
I probably forgot to do that. Let me switch Dan over. Yep, I forgot to check it. Sorry.
He's got the operating system that
Can you hear now?
predated OS9 by
Yep.
Microware.
What was the RT?
Sounds like Henry.
Something.
And Mikey.
Yeah, Henry's there too. Yeah.
This have a stick here, so. RT68, yes. Okay, so this was is it for 6809?
6800.
6800. Okay, so
This came out. So the two developers wrote this code as they were academic. They released it in '77. Motorola coming out, so they went back to the developers and contracted with them to make a 6809 specific version, which became
Sorry, it's hard to hear him.
Yep.
But this predecessor works perfectly fine on 6800. It's a 1K ROM, 16 threads.
Yeah. I've
He's
never
shown me where the source is.
Oh,
And
okay.
all of these are 6800 kits.
Yeah, somewhere in the great depths of my father's garage has some kind of 6800 computer that he built, or I don't know if he built it or somebody at work built it and he got it or something. I just remember a box with a few cards in it. I was more interested in the color computer. I remember plugging a terminal and poking at it, but it didn't do that much. I still have to try to find that and try to make it do something.
Well, they can do a lot. You put RT68 on it. You
Yeah.
can do, I mean, I have a little home automation system set up that uses it. It takes interrupts and, you know, the door controller, override me, typing code, and everything else.
Looks like an S100 card.
6800 over here.
S50 and S100 are pretty popular. 6800 and 6809 early stuff.
Focus, 6800. Yay! And 68. 20. Yeah. Yeah.
This is him as a young man controlling a physics experiment with a 6800. Any program.
With chainer board of some kind. Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Motorola EXORcizer.
Yep.
Cool.
So the EXORcizer is one of the Motorola produced platforms that you could cross-assemble to 6800, 6803, 6809, etc. And Brian had one of those, I believe, at CoCoFest this year too. Or at least he picked one up from Robert Kilgus, so he's got one. And I think Stevie had one too, didn't he? I think he picked one of these up.
Yeah.
But that was one of the main development platforms that Motorola supplied for people that were actually writing code. Now, I'll fast forward a little bit to Henry Strickland talking about his booth. It's times 10, 117, 55 roughly.
Little guy is the CoPiCo is connected through some logic directly to the
Maybe a bit earlier.
6809. Hi, CoCo.
The CoPiCo.
And we're talking technical, sounds like.
There's Henry, that's actually the booth he was helping man. Or is manning, it's still on.
And then this little guy here is Stick's bonus project. Basically this little guy is the CoPiCo is connected through some logic directly to the 6809. So I don't know what kind of shenanigans you can do with this card, but I'm sure we'll find out, won't we, Stick?
Yes, that's my latest thing that's right off the press. It's going to be a single board computer with a vintage 6809 or 6309, and then a CoPiCo that completely controls it and does everything else. So basically, the poor little 6809 is suspended in the matrix and doesn't know it.
And I see you've got the Ethernet card there. Is Ethernetting? Yes, this card here.
Yeah. So let me see. Turn that off. This is Patrick Euland's CoCoIO. So it's got the Ethernet chip and it's got the EEPROM. And then this is Thomas Shanks's CoPiCo, which has got a CoPiCo W.
Yep.
And it should be able to function as a ROM. We demonstrated earlier this year what I call spoon feeding to boot with it. And right now I'm working on getting my software that works for this adjusted so it can also work to the ports and the protocol that this chip uses.
Cool.
At least for talking to the server that I've got. However, demos aren't working too good here today.
Uh-oh, demo fail.
I think this poor little Wi-Fi is confused by so many hotspots around.
Yeah.
And it can't find the hotspot that we want to get it on. So that might be a weird mode we found.
Yep. Cool. So, as I said, best table is the last table. So,
Well, you know, there's a lot of GPU.
yeah, I showed that one earlier. So, thank you.
So that's a little bit of the stuff that's, CoCo or 6809, 6800 related. From what Michael has said, most of the show seems to be Commodore and Apple this year. There seems to be a little bit less. There's some Model 1s and stuff too there, but definitely a bit more centric on the Apple and Commodore people. And Apple, that kind of makes sense because that's the area Apple's in, right?
Yep, and Commodore was one of the best-selling systems ever. So.
Yeah. So it's not uncommon to have them. The most
Not surprised.
So if you guys want to watch the rest of the video, he kind of walked around the whole hall and just kind of mentioned some of the things he saw. There's somebody actually doing 3D printed cases to replace the Model 1 case, which is kind of interesting. Like that's a pretty big 3D print, and he has to paint it the right color to get it to match the old Battleship Gray style, but they actually look pretty good. So you guys can catch all that. Like I said, it's an hour and a half, and this is raw footage he uploaded, so he hasn't done any editing or cleaning up of it. He's planning on doing a kind of a processed version. Hopefully he can get some of the sound balance better because you're getting a lot of crowd noise, which is good because there's a lot of crowds there. That's always good to see at a retro show. And then Henry Strickland himself actually posted up some photos that he's taken here. And I don't have context for these, so hopefully you guys will recognize some of these things if I don't. Looks like some PCs, standard PCs back here.
AT&T Unix boxes.
Yep, we got some 3B1s in there, definitely.
Yep. Oh, 7300. Yeah, right there in the front.
Hey, there's an HP Rainbow 100, 2 of them.
I see some original IBM PCs back there. Oh, S100 cards.
Yep. A bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So what would this be? Because I don't see chips.
On the older machines, they used individual transistors for the like the ALU
for the gates,
and then the different boards would have different parts of the ALU, so that the entire ALU would be like 5-6 boards.
Okay, so each of these 3 little beads makes like one flip.
Probably each one is a transistor.
Right. So yeah.
And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, 8, 3. That's 18. So that'd be an 18-bit processor. Well, 18 bits.
Stuff. Yeah.
18-bit word. Ew.
There's a whack load of boards. These look like standard ISA and 16-bit ISA. It looks like.
Yeah.
Plug into your old XT and yeah.
Yep.
Those 3.
Well, here's the old XT 8-bit bus, and then you got the extension for the ISA.
Yeah. A lot of them look like SCSI cards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because there's like some D systems, SCSI AT. Yeah.
SCSI.
Oh, I could take some of those.
Yeah, not all Centronics 50s are SCSI, but quite a few were, because the 50-pin Centronics was also used for A to D and D to A conversion.
That goes back even further.
There you go. There's an
These are
adder.
tubes, aren't they?
That might be a full adder.
This looks like the back of one of my amps.
Yeah, that's
that is-
before my time, Rick.
That is a those little screw things. It's a module. It plugs into a rack for some system.
Right, and that many tubes. It's going to be something like an adder, so it will do a one bit add to carry on to the next one. You just rack them on in there till you had enough of them.
That was back when
Amazing.
computers were interchangeable with space heaters.
Right. Cool.
Maybe it's an optical illusion because of the color, but these almost look like they're wooden circuit boards.
They are. It's
Oh, they are?
cardboard and
Okay.
resin.
Yeah, they're fiber board.
Phenolic, yeah. Phenolic,
yeah.
they called it. Yeah, it's cardboard and resin. Sometimes they throw a little dye in to throw you off. But
yeah.
Okay. Non-conductive.
When you're using a
So
rock
heated
for
and
a
pressed.
hammer, you use what you got.
Yeah.
They're easy to make.
Yep.
There's a sense inhibit. I'm just reading off the bottom. Like I have a clue what I'm talking about.
Oh, right.
That looks like a board from one of the machines that David Usagi Electric has been working on.
Yeah.
I
He
love
definitely works
those
in the older big iron
old-
stuff.
I love those old hand-drawn boards with the swoopy curves and stuff like we just saw. It's just
Here's the OS2 2.1 Rex handbook. I think Deke should pick that one up. This is a description of all of us, isn't it? Rabbit hole computing.
yeah.
So, Sloopy, do you know what rabbit hole makes? Because these look like modern things as opposed to.
Yes.
Yes, you know what they do, or
Yes.
Will you disclose it?
you're not helping their sales any at this point.
PCI on the far right.
They make Zulu SCSI and other things.
Oh, this
Okay.
guy.
What
this guy
platforms?
They will support anything that SCSI does, but mostly Mac.
Okay.
I think this guy was at Southwest.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was.
Some smaller laptops, including an Atari laptop. Toshiba and an HP. That's a funky button arrangement. I don't think I've seen that before in an IBM. Here's some more S100 bus-based stuff. MS-DOS 4.01.
Wow, nice two CF cards in that one card.
Exactly. Basing a system on CF cards is pretty old school, ain't it?
Meaning here?
Yeah. See, second card
Those-
down.
Both
This
of
one
those.
here.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
compact flash cards.
Yeah, I've seen them before. I don't remember what that card is called.
Well, it's compact flash.
Sol
Cisco
20s. I
logo.
haven't seen these in a long time.
One way to make a box.
Yeah. This is the old
Remember-
70s aesthetic.
You couldn't just get a plastic box, so two slices of wood and some metal panels, and hey, pretty good looking.
Yeah, most of the, like, even terminals like the ADMs were like metal type things. Plastic wasn't that common.
And very simply done, so you couldn't form corners. That's why they all had wood sides and things like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Tech Time Traveler that had that Sol computer
Could be.
on his YouTube channel?
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I think I saw him with it about a year or so ago.
There's CPM 2.2 on an IMSA 8080, I presume. That graphic terminal. It's running MAME. Oh yeah, Mikey went and did this. This is a regular size Mac here. Somebody created this huge version, like the mouse is the size of your entire hand, and then some.
Oh my goodness.
And this all works. Like he actually was typing on it and he was moving the mouse around. It actually works here running in MAME. So this is
So
This
like
is
for back
overkill.
when you were like that's for remembering what it was like when you were like 8 years old. I bet.
Yeah, or maybe more like 2 or 3, because I watched the scale of Mikey's hand. You can see it in the video, which of course you can see in the show notes on our Discord. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting because he was kind of surprised the mouse actually worked because he moved around, clicked. Oh, it does work.
I need a large table, but
I mean, here's a standard PC size keyboard here, just to give you an idea.
Well, that's a standard Mac keyboard for Mac PC. Or SC
Well, yeah, I meant personal computer, not IBM PC.
Yeah.
But here, like the mouse is longer than the height of the keyboard here.
But finally, a keyboard that I can read without having a magnifying glass.
Yeah, now I just need a screen proportionally that large so I can see that too. I guess you could just hook it up to an HDMI 90-inch or something.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
Apple Lisa. Oh yeah, here's the 3D printed replacement Model 1 cases. Not fully painted to color yet, but
Those are pretty.
yeah, he did a really good job. And like here, you can see kind of what it looks like bare before you start painting it. And then we start painting it, it actually starts to resemble the original one. Did a really good job on that, actually. I know Mikey was pretty impressed about it.
This is the same guy that's got the reproduction circuit boards for Model 1 and the keyboard. Too,
You can kind of see the top of one of them here.
Yeah,
This
is his booth. This is also his booth.
Yeah. Prodigy. How many here remember that?
I remember it.
I never used it. It wasn't really up here in Canada. We had, CompuServe obviously and Delphi, Genie to a limited extent, but Prodigy wasn't that common. Even though we did have Sears and IBM up here.
Yeah, they sold dirt cheap 2400 baud modems, and a lot of people would buy the Prodigy kit for the 2400 baud modem and hook it up and then not use it for Prodigy at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ken, my fellow Canuck here, did you ever use Prodigy up in Canada, or did you use any of those big services?
I did not.
Ah, okay. An Acorn Electron. From Britain, of course. There's an Amstrad, also from Britain. Notice the proper spelling of color. MEK 6802 DS evaluation system. And the EXORcizer, of course, which is the cross-development platform from Motorola themselves. So this is a nice, clearer pictures of some of the stuff that Henry was pointing out at the one booth here, talking about RT68 and eventually OS9. The old hex keypad. Now, this microprocessor course, I've actually seen this manual before, but I've never really talked to any of you old timers about it. Did any of you ever take any of these courses that Motorola actually offered? I did not.
Out of my price range.
We were buying color computers.
Point taken.
I got to play with the Hero Heath 1 at my college that used the 6808 on it. So I got that was my first programming with this Motorola. And it looks a lot
we were
like
busy trying to get the CoCo2 kits there, but I think Brian brought them all, so it was too late.
Yep.
Zoom up with the 6800 kit from 75, 76. So this predates the CoCo by a good 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I do have the 68,000 kit developers board.
It is even older than us, Sloopy. It runs at 110 baud.
Ooh.
Hey, matches the teletypes of the day.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the Motorola 6800 family, including the PIAs and stuff.
It would be a good collection today.
Yeah. Here's their serial chip, the 6850.
Model what?
Model 1 with expansion box.
Yeah.
An MC10. He did find several MC10s going through. I think there was probably more MC10s than CoCos at VCF West. I'll have to double check with Mikey afterwards, but I think that's kind of the impression I got anyway. He was kind of lamenting that there wasn't enough CoCo displays there.
I think the MC10s were holding up the tables, weren't they?
A back station. Is that a Russian computer or something? Yeah, this I have no idea.
Yeah, it looks like a Cyrillic.
Yep, something Cyrillic.
Cyrillic. No.
Yeah, it could be like Ukrainian or a bunch of others.
It looks like a Cyrillic typeset or font or character set.
And a chiclet keyboard.
I want to know what the up left arrows.
yeah, I was kind of wondering about that myself.
You've got
and why do you have 2 down arrows?
You got 2 downs, left, right, up, and up, left.
Yeah, and then they got 2 down arrows here. Like, is that, you know, 1 space, then you go down 2 or bottom? I don't know. I have no idea.
Not quite QWERTY either.
No.
No.
Well, I mean,
It's not
it's
QWERTY or
Cyrillic.
Dvorak.
And the capitals are on the bottom. I mean, come on.
No, the Latin alphabet's on the bottom. The Cyrillic alphabet's on the top.
I'm just looking at the numbers and I say, do you shift for the 2 or do you unshift for the quote, or how does it's wrong? Again,
There's another one.
the quote's underneath
Oh.
the 2.
I like the
Why isn't it-
cron. Big red key there. Is that for
No, that's
scheduling
stop.
stuff?
No, that's
It reads stop.
Ah, okay. I thought it was like the cron, you know, for scheduling tasks and stuff. I thought, you know,
No,
that's your
no.
emergency. You got to stop
Andy?
that task. Or Brian could have used that on MAME earlier.
That would be the Russian equivalent of a break key, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, you would know that.
Yes.
Apple One replica board, because of course the actual ones are quite rare and expensive. I think the last few sold for close to $250,000, if not more.
If you have a fat enough wad of bacon, they're not rare.
I know if you listen to the commentary that Michael had when he was taking a look at this specific display here, he'd mentioned that his dad attended some of the original vintage, well, not vintage, but the original computer club meetings in the San Francisco area back when the Apple One was being sold. And he ended up getting something else. He never did buy an Apple One. He said, too bad, you know, because you could have retired on that. It's Model 4P and a Tandy WP2, the word processing specific. Which I honestly had forgotten about those. And how do you pronounce this? Is it Kyotronic or Kiotronic or? But that's basically like a Model 100 from the original manufacturer for Tandy, kind of got it redone and then had Microsoft do the custom ROMs. MC10 with the printer and the RAM expansion. Tandy 600, I like you label it too weird to live.
Nice.
The original TRS80 Pocket Computer. I remember drooling over this when it first came out. Then when the Pocket Computer 2 actually had bitmap graphics, it was like 156 by 7 pixels or something like that. And it wasn't so useful, but
Yeah, and it was $300.
This is the computer I first learned to cheat on. I wrote an adventure game on it that didn't really have a map. It just sort of randomly said things. Nobody knew that at the time, so they would play this game for hours at work. It was great.
I even got the little printer interface too. If you thought a TP10 was just too wide,
Yeah, there you go.
there's a 102. IBM 1130. I'm not familiar with this one. Is that a terminal or is that a full-blown computer?
They
It's
say
computing system, so I have to assume it's
system.
computer.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what that would run for NOS?
That's a terminal for it.
Right.
Monster
right.
6502. I think this is where they basically duplicated the 6502, zoomed up so you can actually see all the little bits running. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did it in discrete components.
Yeah, they did it in discrete transistors.
So I don't know anything for context here, but how big is this board physically?
It's like
That
3 foot
duplicates
by
it.
2.5 feet.
Okay, what was the first part? You said something by 2.5 feet.
Yeah, it's like 3 foot.
Okay, so pretty big.
Yeah.
Where does the mouse go?
Yeah. Is this the original version of Tetris? Because I know it was created in Russia, and this kind of looks acrylic here. So it was a text-based terminal, I remember. Could be the original. What was it? 1982. The original Tetris came out in Russia. That looks to be it.
Yeah, but it's not running on the original hardware.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, let's hope not. It's a flat.
Definitely the screen's a lot more modern. It's a Sync Master. So that's the photos that Henry's put up so far. I don't know if they'll be taking some more and adding, because I mean, obviously the show is still running today. And hopefully they can solve their Wi-Fi problem, because it'd be nice to see some of their demos running.
Right, right.
Anyway, I just thought it was pretty cool. We actually got some updates from in the field here. Well, maybe we have to have Mikey come on in the next couple weeks, maybe after he releases the edited and tuned up version of the video of the show itself here, and kind of talk about specifically some things that intrigued him. So anyway, continuing from that, because that was what's happening this weekend. Here's what's coming up. So we got, first of all, the New England Classic Gaming is having electronic and computer retro swap meet on August the 24th at 9 a.m. Central Time at the Norfolk Public Library in Norfolk, Massachusetts. I believe this is the one that Henry pointed out to me. You're still planning on going to this, Henry? Or
Oh yeah, absolutely.
if you pick up any really cool things, you're going to come on and show us after your coughing attack?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what was that?
I just was wondering, are you planning on buying anything at this? Like, do you know what's in the swap meet, or is it just completely
I have no
random?
idea. There's just going to be a swap meet, so I'll go there. I'll see what's up, and we'll have some fun.
Okay, cool. Next up, we got VCF Midwest. Now, somebody was mentioning that the schedule's up now. Ah, they're correct. Of course, this is the big Kahuna show, and they've upgraded again. So originally they upgraded to the new Schaumburg Convention Center with, I think, 33,000 square feet. And they found out after they started actually selling the tables that they needed way more room. So they've made another change just in the last week or two here. They upgraded to the Convention North space, which is 50,000 square feet. The old one was in the Exploration Hall, it was called. So this is quite a bit bigger. And of course, this is September 7th to the 8th, with September 6th reserved for vendors, etc. So they already outgrew the space even before they got the show started. So, and I think it was Jim Brain pointed out, or maybe it was Jason that pointed out that some of my old show notes still had some stuff that was a bit obsolete. So I've updated the show notes a bit, because they, sold out the original hotel in hours and whatever else. Now they got multiple hotels, and some of those are sold out. But there's plenty of room and hotel rooms around the area, because this is a main convention area. So there's lots of convention centers, lots of hotels. So you can find something nearby if you need it, or you can maybe hitch a ride with Rick because he's just driving down for the day. So I haven't actually had a chance to look at the schedule. For those of you that have, is there any of these seminars, et cetera, that really I should highlight as being really interesting for people in the CoCo world, or just in retro stuff in general?
Well, in Jeff Pittmeyer in A New Soul for an Old Machine is one of the big movers in the FujiNet project. So,
oh, okay. Yeah, got a pretty good variety here. Now, there was another podcasters group presentation, wasn't there? Because I know Taylor and Amy mentioned they got invited to it. I don't see it on here.
That should be an interesting thing. The one building modern solutions for retro computing.
That's the Taylor and Amy. The one that Taylor and Amy are going to be on is at 13:30 there, the 4th annual YouTubers discussion panel.
Okay, yeah, it just doesn't mention the guests. That's why I didn't see it. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good show. So hopefully some of you that are attending, which I believe is like Henry and Rick and Ken and Sloopy, you're still not able to make it, or?
No, I just financially can't swing it.
Okay.
Unless you want to give me a fat wad of bacon.
The reason I'm not going is I can't swing it either. So
I thought it was because you had to work.
I can't, but I'm driving there anyway.
That much later is iffy, but that would be a better time than August for me to try to make it. But I actually don't know. There's some weird stuff happening with work. I just found out the last day or two here, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Anyway, this is the big one. So if you can go, I would highly recommend it. I know some of you have been there before, and I've always mentioned it's a great time. There's a whole CoCo section of people there too, as well as a Tandy section in general. And it's the biggest show as far as I know in the world for retro.
Yeah, it would be the one that I would recommend going to.
After that, we have the World of Retrocomputing 2024, September 14th to 15th. So literally the weekend after in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, which is west of Toronto. This year is located in the old Goodies department store at 8 Queen Street North. Free admission. And this covers all retrocomputers, kind of like VCF does. So people in the CoCo community are planning on going, including Stacy Vetzel, who's actually been posting some pictures on Facebook of some graphics she's going to be displaying as part of her little demo booth here. And I know she was trying to get a 3D printed fix for a reset button that broke on her CoCo and stuff too. So hopefully she gets everything all caught up and running. I'm not sure who's all going here. And I believe that Frank is actually one of the sponsors for this show. I don't know if he's still in the chat or if he's too busy soldering CoCo SDCs at the moment, but if he has any stuff he wants to mention about it, throw in the chat for Frank and I'll pick it up a little bit later. After that, we have Tandy Assembly. That's September 27th to 29th. And at the Courtyard by Marriott Springfield in Springfield, Ohio. This, of course, covers all Tandy machines, including CoCos and the ZDA-based stuff, the Pocket computers, the Tandy 1000 to 4000 line, etc. Basically, any computer that Tandy sold. I know Peter of the Tandy Assembly and the TRS80 Trash Talk podcast just recently picked up an incredibly rare, what is it called? Something 10. Tandy 10, is that what it's called? Is a rebranded computer that Tandy sold in their computer centers only for a very brief bit of time. And they're incredibly hard to find. And he actually just picked one up. I think he's posting photos of it next, and he's on holiday. So I think he's going to try to do a proper video or something on it after he gets back, or maybe put it on the next Trash Talk. But I think his is actually functional because we've seen a few rusted out cases and stuff there. But it was one of their earliest business computers. I think it came out in 79, 78, somewhere around there.
Wasn't that the machine that they bought from someone else to resell because they didn't have their own machine ready yet?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I just was kind of catching that in between work, so I might be getting some of my details wrong. I just know he posted some pictures of it. I don't know if he's even bringing it to the show either.
Needs a forklift.
Next up after that, we swing across the pond to the UK. The Dragon Meetup has been officially announced for October 12th to the 13th at the Museum of Technology in Cambridge, England. Kind of like VCF West, there's an actual, computer museum and a technology museum within a couple blocks, and the Dragon Meetup itself. So that will be a fun time. I know we've got some pictures. They've had the actual Dragon Meetup at both of those museums before, depending on the year and what situation there was at the various museums. There's renovations going on one year, so they moved it. But the museums themselves are fascinating in and of themselves. And then, of course, you got the Dragon Meetup thrown on top. It's like a bonus. And I don't think they've got anything specific as far as, scheduled speakers or anything like that. But they usually have trivia contests and other things, too. So it'll be a fun time. This is a show I definitely plan on attending just to see the museums, too, at some point in hopefully not too distant future. They're before I'm like 90 and feeble. And then also in England, November 9th to 10th is the Retro Computer Festival. And this is kind of the equivalent of VCF in the UK. And this is at the Center for Computing History, which is the other museum just, a couple blocks away. And this is the largest show in the UK for retro, covers all retro machines, including game machines and home computers. And they've actually let you book tickets for each day separately. So you got the Saturday, you can go here to book that one. And you got Sunday, there's admission fees for those. And I know that it's looked pretty good from pictures I've seen the previous year. So I'm looking forward to see what all people bring out this year as well. And then when I don't have anything to display yet, VCF East dates have been confirmed for April 25th to 27th in 2025. Same facility as this year, which is the Info Age Science Museum in Wall, New Jersey. That's the one I think Sloopy regularly attends. And Henry, did you make it to that one this last year? I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I made it to VCF East.
So what's your impression of that show?
I enjoyed it. It's tight. When I say tight, like space-wise, it's really constrained. because I mean, InfoAge, although it's got a lot of stuff going on, that primary building doesn't really have much room. And just everything felt kind of small. But then again, it is the East Coast, and you know, everything in the East Coast feels small.
I know there was kind of hinting that they were possibly thinking of trying to find a bigger venue, and then they came back to the original. I'm assuming maybe the cost got to be a bit too much, or
I don't think it's the cost. I think it's more the more just the vibe of the place, because InfoAge, despite the fact that it's small, it is a great place to be having that festival with everything else that's there for you to look at.
Yeah, cost is part of it because they get the space for free.
oh, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of like a donated space for them. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So to go anywhere else, they'd actually have to pay for the space. So
Double money, yeah.
So that's a major consideration.
Do they charge for admission, or is it free currently?
They charge for admission. It's like 20 for one day and 35 for both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my 3-day pass. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because it's a 3-day long event. They start it like it's all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then half the day on Sunday. So
not cheap.
I think I was like $35 or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't paid to get in 10 years. So
You sneak in? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that's it.
Walk around back. Come on in.
No, one year someone actually paid for me, and in the last few years I've gone as a representative for Retro Innovations.
So that's the shows that I've scheduled so far. Well, not I've scheduled, but I've reported the schedule on. I'll give more details on VCF East and any other shows once more details are out. So that's it for upcoming shows. So now we'll switch. You guys want Game On news, which actually there's a surprising amount of this week, or do you want the regular news first? Vote in the panel, please.
The intro first.
I can easily snore through either one.
When you want the latest in TRS80, Tandy, Dragon, MC10, and all of their hardware cousins. No matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCoNation News with L Curtis Boyle.
Hey, we're going to do the Game On news first.
Sorry,
Actually,
Sloopy.
That's okay. I would recommend putting it in the MC10 section.
did you just put that in like
No,
recently?
I put it on July 31st.
Maybe PM it to me and I'll take a look because I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's right before everyone talked about VCF West.
Hey, so Game On News, we actually have a fair bit this week. So Jim Gary's been a busy boy. Jim Mullis has been a busy boy. Nostalgia Vault has been a busy boy on YouTube. So we'll just kind of go piecing through this here. So first up, Jim Gary with a bunch of updates. So the first one here, this you might recognize from last week, is his Ark Royal. We have to land a plane on a floating ship, basically, on the MC-10. And this was originally programmed for the ZX81 and appeared in the December 1981 issue of Compute Magazine, or Your Computer Magazine, I should say. We added instructions, added a second difficulty level, and changed the canopy from cyan to white to make it easier to see on real hardware because it was kind of blending in with the green a bit too much. So that's what he's added in since last week. So now you get a prompt for level 1 or 2 for difficulty level. And of course, you have to try to, catch the landing thing and land properly without crashing. So anyway, if you have an MC10 and you downloaded this last week, you better go get the update. Another update he did, this is his update to his Moon Rover Patrol, which of course is a Moon Patrol clone. The original version he published of this is back in 2020. So he's added a few new speed up techniques, and he added Greg Dion's key input routine, which is a bit faster. And Greg Dion, of course, is the author of the basic compiler for the MC10. So I'll play a little bit of this here. I can't remember how fast the original ran, but this actually runs at a pretty decent clip for basic. So fast forward a bit so you can see a little bit of level 1 gameplay. So you've even got, simulated scrolling mountains, and he's got little checkpoints at the bottom. A single alien at a time on the top, and then you also can get a tank or whatever on the bottom, as well as holes and rocks, etc. So CoCo10 has some competition here for his Moon Patrol clone. Still, for basic and low res, not too bad. Next one he did, this is actually one he's actually working on called Softball, which is his entry for the upcoming 10-liner basic programming competition. And this is loosely based on a softball game that originally appeared on the Sharp MZ700 computer. And this one, actually, for a 10-liner, this looks pretty good. I mean, it's obviously the gameplay is a bit simple when you're doing 10 lines, but so basically the pitcher pitches the ball, you try to hit it, and depending on when you connect with it, it can go to different colored squares on the top. Some of them will be like a single base hit, some will be double base hit, triple hit, or a home run. And of course, you can also hit it so that it hits one of the opposing players, which is the red blocks there that you saw. And if they catch it, you're out, obviously. And you got strikes and balls and everything else too. Two players that alternate between, who's batting, etc. But I thought it was pretty well rendered for 10 lines to fit all this crammed in here with the little ball trails and everything else here too. It's pretty well done. I don't know which version of the 10-liner this is. I'm guessing it's the standard 256 byte maximum per line. I don't think it's one of the extreme ones, and I don't think it's one of the ones that has to fit in 80 columns or something, though I could be wrong. But even little animations, the guy swinging his bat and stuff, it's pretty decent for 10 lines. Next up, he updated a game he did a long time ago. This one was called Tunnel Jumper. And he originally did this in 2013. So once again, he's incorporated Greg Dion's newer key input routines and a better inverse text routine, which is a bit faster. I think he originally had to poke it. But this is an update, 11 years after he did the original. Fair bit of keys to remember here. Basically, you have to do some drilling and get some elements and stuff. So I'll just fast forward. So he's the XY walking character here. You have to collect the little stars. You've got these other things coming after you, but you can also drill between levels and stuff. So kind of vaguely dig duggish, I guess. But I think the speed is a lot better because I think it was printing down here before he had to literally poke or print them individually. And this new inverse key or inverse video routine he's using is a lot faster. So that's what Jim's been up to. So Wayne Campbell, we had him on the show last week to talk about his Basic 9 OS9 Level 2 port of Sokoban. After he did the original super extended basics. These are both CoCo3 required, and they're based on the graphics from the original version, as we saw last week. So this kind of goes through and explains what he's done, kind of the history of the projects, and what the differences are between the super extended basic version and the Basic 9 OS9 Level 2 version. The screenshots you're seeing on the screen right now, this is a super extended basic version here. This is the Basic 9 version. Now, he's been finding a couple little minor bugs the last week or two, so he's been constantly going in and fixing and giving us updates on the Basic 9 channel on the CoCo Discord. I don't know if it's completely cemented away yet. He's still playtesting it a bit. Once he does get it completely, as far as we can tell, bug-free, I will be probably issuing a special release of EOU 1.01A or something like that, just to include the game, because it's kind of cool. Has 80 levels, and he mentions like the super extended version only has 50 of them, if I remember correctly. And then he talks about the history with the PC 8801 version of it. There's still one thing he wanted to fix on the super extended version of a vanishing goal. So you push a box onto the goal and then you push it off. The special symbol that indicates one of the landing sites doesn't get put back on the screen properly. But you can get that one ready on the archive, or you can download directly from his site here. Once again, links in the show notes on Discord. Then he talks about some of the changes he had to do from the original PC version. Thanks William Astle for helping convert the graphics, etc. over. And what the files do, etc., etc., etc. And then it goes into basic 9 version, which includes stuff like overlay windows and text and instructions that you can pop up whenever you want. Has all 80 puzzles instead of just a subset. Has the vanishing goal issue fixed. Added last move undo. And he has instructions if you don't want to wait for the EOU release, you can actually just go and run an installer and run it there too. So thanks to Wayne. I mean, he's been a big proponent of Basic 9 for years and years since he did the original decode and decom decompilers, which I've used extensively to fix stuff for ease of use and Nitrous 9 in general. He's never really worked with the graphic stuff before, as he mentioned last week. So it's kind of fun watching him kind of learn some of this stuff and actually cranking out a pretty decent game for it. So if you're into puzzle games like Sokoban, if you played the original Sokoban cartridge that Spectral Associates did, which has 50 puzzles, this has 30 more puzzles, including the ones with breakable walls. So, and some other extra options as well. Plus you can save the state of each of the levels here. So you can go back and finish a level you get stuck on while skipping ahead to a different set or a different level. So quite a few good features in that. So definitely go check it out if you're into puzzle games. Next up, we have Jim Mullis. He's been cranking out some more of the heroes. So he's got a whole selection screen at the beginning of Superpowers, a game he's working on, based on the comic book and the TV series cartoon of the same name put up by DC Comics. And he's added in 4 new heroes in the last week with their own animations. The Flash, which is the one that's here right now. You might recognize this symbol. I'll play a little bit so you can kind of see it. Now this one, the Flash, of course, is known for super speed. So when you are moving around the joystick, it jumps a lot further on the screen than any other heroes. I don't know if this makes it harder to control or not. And he shoots whirlwinds from his hands, which is kind of cool. If you've seen the other demos we've shown previously, when you walk to the next one where it says, has the arrow, let's go. Normally, it has to scroll the whole screen across kind of slowly. In the Flash's case, it just goes bang, bang, and you're there. So here's the one with another hero who's added in, Robin. Of course, Batman's sidekick. With one of his later costumes where he's actually got leggings on. And it shows their attack moves, etc. And whatever their projectile is. So if I remember, he's got a menu at the beginning that's got like 16 heroes you can choose from which one you want to play as. So he's gradually filling them in. Here's Batman. Now, unfortunately, this is one, he actually has the shadow under the feet, which actually looks really good because of the transparent sprites that Graphic Express supports. But he says he's probably going to take that out just to make it consistent with all the other heroes, which is too bad because it actually looks pretty nice. But mind you, you'd have to get this more complicated. If you have shadows, when they start flying or whatever, you're going to have to figure out, distant height and put the shadow on the ground, so probably slow down the game a bit. But some really well done graphics here for the characters. And the last one we added was Aquaman, famously played by Jason Momoa recently in movies. Now, I don't know how good Aquaman's going to do because this is all city streets you're wandering through. So eventually he's going to get weak from lack of water. And his projectile here is a honking big trident, which I think he shows off here shortly. How he managed to pull a Trident that's taller than him out and just huck it, I'd have no idea. But comic books aren't exactly known for, making sense of the physical world.
So in the chat, the author has some notes.
Okay. Wonder Woman was added this afternoon. They can all block too. Oh, cool. And Wayne Campbell's talking about his Sokobon. So he says, I could use somebody with a real CoCo 3 to test the game. I don't know what it looks like on the real hardware. I should be able to do that. Does anybody else want to volunteer for helping Wayne test Sokobon on a real CoCo 3? 256K are up required.
I don't know what mine has. I haven't even got it out of the box yet.
Well, if it's standard in the box, it'd either be a 128K or rarely a 512, unless somebody upgraded themselves and put it back in the box.
I think it's at 128, but I'm not sure.
Now, his original super extended basic version, I think, would run a 128K if you want to try that. TRS80 Retroprogramming, who I saw in the chat earlier, also did a couple updates. One will be mentioned here, part of the game project for Tales of Suburbia. So this is his modified version of the final screen where you have to launch the model rocket, and then the part of the adventure game is here you have to get everything to get it so you can launch it. But he added in like a fence, and he's actually got, the sort of chain link look to it, so the tree trunks actually show up in the background. And he kind of goes through what he's getting done here. So he's just about ready to release it. He did mention near the end of the video about learning how to use the disk. Because back in the day when he had his CoCo 1 and 2, or CoCo 2, I think in his case, he never had a disk drive for it, so he didn't learn any of the disk commands and stuff. And he's got these set up as multiple tapes and stuff, which I know that was very common for the Dragon in the UK because the price of disk drives there was even higher than it was here. But I think most of us back in the day would have had disk drives, and it's definitely a lot easier, to get programs to run each other and do it quickly, not have to worry about do I have the right tape mounted, because it's all just on one disk. You just run quote part 5 or whatever you're doing. So hopefully they'll make a disk version as well here. I think it'd be a better user experience. But if he keeps the tape version around for those who want to go completely retro, you definitely can. But since this is the final screen, I don't want to spoilerize too much. So next up, Nostalgia Vault, which we've covered a couple videos by him before on YouTube. And he does a whole bunch of retro machines and more modern machines where he just does basically gameplay videos. He was quite busy doing CoCo stuff this week, including a few that probably most of us have never seen. The first one is called Scrambled Eggs, which is kind of a counting game, I think, aimed at young kids. Basically, it's learning how to count. And I don't know where this is from. I'm guessing it's from a magazine. I just don't remember which one. I didn't get a chance to find it before the show, unfortunately. So the object is to count the goose eggs, which is basically just zeros it puts up on the screen. And you get a little happy face if you got it right. So I think it's meant for very young kids. Next one is called Say What by Jeff Beckerman. I don't know if this was a magazine game or not. It's not a commercial product, I'm pretty sure. It actually has speech, rather poorly done digitized speech. It sounds to me like Speak Up from ComputiZe, if you guys remember that, which was a software kind of version of the speech sound pack. Now, to fit it in 16K, which is one of the things that Speak Up required, though they did have a 32K version as well, it can't really do too much sampling to do a really good, awesome voice. Now, the one nice thing about this one here is he actually has a picture of the Ghostbusters ghost logo that actually moves its lips as it talks. So I'll play a little bit just to kind of get an idea what the graphics and then, of course, what the sound is like. So it prompts you, like, what do you want it to say? Pretty rough.
Fury by Computer Shack.
Yep, that's kind of it. Now, Speak Up, actually, if you ran it on the CoCo 3 and you ran it at full double speed, like the RAM and ROM speed poke, it became more intelligible, though obviously it pitch shifted it up here. But like on a CoCo 3, you could definitely do much better because you have a lot more RAM. You could put your, little snippets of different voicings of different sounds that you can produce with a human voice to put together to create the actual words. So you could do a much better one. In fact, I think there was one, Digitizer 3 or something. I can't remember what it's called now. But there was one available that did a much better in software. But it was interesting that you could at least do it. And I can't remember if Speak Up actually used 1-bit sound or if it used 6-bit sound. But I think if they ever did a 64K version that actually used the extra 32K to create the sound samples, probably could have done a lot more legible.
Right. More phonemes. Exactly.
Yeah. Because the fact that this had to run in 16K and leave you enough room for your own program to actually call it meant that their samples weren't very many of them.
Right. You got pretty much a cough, a spit.
Not very good fidelity. Next up, he did one that's actually quite popular with programmers, and this is a cross-platform one. I'm sure Mark has seen this and probably Sleepy before, called Rocky's Boots.
Yes. They're learning company, I think.
Yep, correct. Handy version by Synergistic Software.
I've got a copy of that.
Yeah, this is actually electronics.
Yep.
Teaching electronics and computer logic.
Now, you might notice here... Oh, crap.
I've heard of this as well.
Gotta pause at the right spot here. Credits. Do you recognize this rather famous person?
Oh yeah, the guy who put
Warren
his name
Robinette.
in the Atari game. Yeah.
Yes, there's a certain Atari VCS game that he's quite famous for creating the first Easter egg. And that's Adventure.
The father of the Easter egg. Here it
Yeah.
goes.
So Warren actually founded the learning company with Leslie Grimm and what was the other guy's name? Rob Mamawa, something like that. And they did a whole bunch of educational games starting in around 81 for the Apple II, and then they started doing it for a bunch of other machines, including the CoCo and the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20 and the Atari 8-bits.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, I think it was Henry or whoever said earlier, this is basically electronics. That's exactly what it's meant to teach. So you're learning, like, building machines, and basically the levels of progression here from the original menu of what you can do is basically, and they suggest, play it in order, because you basically learn the concepts as you go through, but you can see stuff like logic gates and flip-flops and stuff here. So once you get to the advanced levels, you're learning a fair bit about electronics. Like here you're dealing with sensors and stuff. I'll just play a little bit. Now, one thing the guy at Nostalgia Vault mentioned, he said that he much prefers playing the Apple II version because it's faster. I have never seen the Apple II version running. So, Mark, I was just going to ask, is it a lot faster than this, I'm guessing?
As I recall, it kind of plugged along like this as well, but
unless maybe it's used to running on like a 2GS that has a faster CPU. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. I'd have to fire it up.
In which case, running on a CoCo 3 under level 2, and it should crank along pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit too fast.
Even the 2GS is only like 2.45 megahertz or something like that.
And a standard Apple one is 1.1, right?
Yeah, 1.0.
Apple II, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's over double speed, but just like a CoCo 3 is double speed.
Yeah. Same ballpark.
Jim Gary in the chat says, second hardest game ever after Robot Odyssey, which is another learning game. And it's checking the chat here in case I've missed anything. Wayne mentions that you can ask him any questions in the Basic 09 channel about the Basic 09 version of Silkabomb if you want to be involved in the testing. Anyway, he mentioned that the game is quite good and it's quite, educational, etc. This one actually runs at OS9 level 1, as does the second one, Robot Odyssey. So they're actually pretty good demonstrations. They require 64K CoCo to run, but I do remember quite a few people really hyping this up back in the day. I wasn't into electronics so much. I was more into programming, so I didn't fiddle with them. I was afraid I'd hurt myself. Next one he did is the official Frogger. Unfortunately, the emulator that is running here is a CoCo 3 emulator, and he didn't know to use the CMP command to switch it to the composite palette, so you're getting the grays and stuff instead of the yellows. But, it kind of demonstrates the game okay. I know we've all seen that game before, so I'm going to kind of skip over it. This is a different one. So this is called Amphibia. And this is a basic game with some ML subroutines that basically simulates Moon Patrol. It's being a theme today. And this one actually originally appeared in Rainbow magazine in August of 1985. And aside from the scrolling bits, it's basically all basic. And now the copyright screen actually mentions this was written in 83. So I don't know if the original author, Nick Bradbury, if he held on to the game that long before sending it to Rainbow, or if Rainbow got it and then didn't do anything with it for 2 years. It doesn't look too bad, but he does mention the controls suck. In fact, he kind of worded it pretty strongly. Yeah, it's got swearing in it, so I can't mention it on the show here, but he wasn't too impressed. We'll see what you guys think.
That's a good starting screen right there.
Yeah, actually, I haven't looked at the code on this one yet. This could be that he originally wrote it in 83 for cassette, and maybe he did some patching to, shut the ROMs off or something to not have to rewrite the routines for where the disk basic places the graphics screen, because it's definitely offset. I haven't looked to see why. Because honestly, if you're just doing scrolling, you shouldn't have to do anything that weird that requires a cold reset, unless you're trying to patch something in place. And the infamous, is it orange? Hit enter. If it's blue, hit reset. There you can see it's from 1983 originally. Whenever it starts playing a game. So it's busy drawing stuff in the background. But actually, it doesn't look too bad for a basic ML hybrid. From what I understand from Ringer's review, the controls are horrible. Might even be worse than Storm Arrows for Mark and Sloopy. And I'm not sure why he left the tires underneath, kind of scrolling up like that. I don't know if he meant that as effect, or you just didn't, design the get put buffers correctly. Anyway, this is one I think most of us have probably not seen unless you've gone through a lot of Rainbow on tapes or Rainbow on discs. I remember seeing the article for it, which is where I knew to look in Rainbow's index to figure out when this was published, but I never played it before. What he did was Steve Bjork's Popcorn, which is one of his earliest CoCo games, which I'm not going to play the video here because we've all seen that game a bazillion times. And then the last one he did is he actually played Glenn Hewlett's transcode of Pac-Man. This he was impressed with. So as he mentions here, the arcade-like Pac-Man port really shows what the TRS80 color computer is capable of, which is true. And of course, Nick did an earlier version, which wasn't a transcode, but more of a port. And both of them are excellent CoCo 3 versions of Pac-Man. They both have the intermissions, the music, sound effects, graphics. The main differences here is that this is a transcode, so the ghost pattern and stuff match the arcade. You also have this configuration screen where you can do a bunch of things on it too. Now he didn't try to scale it. Like Nick actually moved the scores and stuff from the bottom or top to the side, because of course the monitors back in the arcade game days was sideways, basically taller than it was widthwise. So Nick's proportionally looks right, but has the scores and what fruit you're on and that kind of thing on the right hand side, whereas Glenn did it just raw the way it was originally designed. But that means you have to turn on the scrolling thing where it kind of scrolls screen up and down as you go, those extra pixels, even past the 225, because I think it was 240 high. So I always find that a little bit jarring. You can shut that off. You can see extended scroll on. But yeah, it is a really good run. I'm assuming most of you guys have played this. And I can't remember, Ken, have we played this one in the challenge? I think we did, didn't we? Or did we play Nick's or both?
I think we've played this one. I don't think we played Nick's yet.
Okay. I would throw in this play Nick's because honestly, out of the two, I kind of preferred it just because of the way the vertical proportionality is kept by moving the scores stuff to the side. I think it's a bit easier to kind of follow and play. And both are excellent. I mean, you're not going to go wrong playing either one. And if you want arcade, authentic, ghost patterns and stuff like that, then and the 255 screen split bug, you definitely want to keep that.
So do we get extra points for playing on this one?
Is that Nick's or is that?
Yeah, that's Nick's giveaway at the fest a couple of years ago when he wasn't there, but he virtually gave away things.
Oh yes, it's an SD card with the actual graphics of the Pac-Man game. Just for those who can't see it, because I'm screen sharing, so nobody else.
Oh yeah,
Zoom people saw it.
It doesn't show up, does it? But it's a Pac-Man game on an SD card.
I have one right here on my
Nicely
camera.
done label.
Here, I'll stop sharing for a
right here
sec
on my
since
camera.
everybody's showing this off here. I'll just stop sharing so you can see it.
Okay, here we go. We've all got our Fest Pac-Man. So we can all
I
is
never
upside
got one of
down.
these.
Oh,
Yeah, you did.
Did I?
You
Yeah,
just
it was in
lost
the
it.
it was in the
Yeah, it came with your Fest pack.
yeah, with your Fest pack when you
Oh, I must have got buried somewhere then. I do have a
You've
few
got
SD
one.
card ones.
You just don't know you have one.
yeah, you have
Maybe
one,
I
you
thought it was
yeah.
Newstroid and just tucked it in the garbage.
Right.
That was
Sorry. So he was quite impressed with this one. I think he was kind of getting disappointed with the CoCo. He mentioned that the Rockies boots ran a bit slow, though the game is intact and basically functional like the Apple II version. And as Mark said, that might be maybe he's playing on a more modern Apple II system like a GS that runs faster. Frogger he was okay with. Popcorn he was okay with. And some of the other ones like Amphibia he just hated. But this one he was impressed. Then Expert Tech, of course, does his Portuguese-based playthroughs of games, and he does it on a real CoCo2 with a real amber monitor. This time he's playing Donkey King, which actually, aside from not knowing what color the flames are, so you don't know if you can run over them or not, or hit them with a hammer or whatever. But it looks pretty good on the amber monitor. It's quite playable.
I had an Amdeck Amber for years, so this is familiar.
Yeah. Honestly, the scores and stuff are actually clearer and easier to see here than they are on a composite color monitor. So. Next up, and this was just released this morning. So I think he was in the chat earlier too. If he is, feel free to pipe up here. But Davey Mitchell has released a new CoCo and Dragon 32 game called Lucky Egg, and he's included the source code. And he has a quick entry about his blog, which we're showing on the screen right now. So this is a game that he wrote himself, and it's just in BASIC. And as he mentions here, he hasn't really played with graphics modes besides SG4, so he thought he'd get out of the hole he's been stuck in. He chose P mode 0, which is the lowest of the high resolution modes here, to make a game where you're basically trying to catch falling objects by moving your man left and right. And just using standard get put. He's not even using the optimized get put we've been talking about over the, some of the CoCoTech episodes here. That's just using the stock one on a 128 by 96 two-color screen. It's got a little bit of explanation here. And if you want to go grab the source code, you can grab that actually off of his GitHub. Links, of course, in the show notes. But I thought I'd show a little bit of the gameplay here. So here's his intro screen. And he's using Q and P for his movements. And if you miss catching the object 6 times, the game is over.
I hate to be the chicken that laid those eggs. A lot of sharp edges on those eggs.
Right?
Yeah.
Heard all the way out.
So the fact that you move by a character cell means if you modified the character cell to be an even byte boundary, you could definitely use the faster get put, because this is actually using the slower one still. Now, at this resolution, it still runs pretty quick. In fact, you'll see the game speeds up as you go. And it's not always possible to catch one. Like if it's way on the side of the screen and it's a level where you're moving faster, you just can't catch it. And a nice little game. I think it runs in 16K extended. I don't think it even needs 32K. So Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Being P mode 0, it only would need a K.5 for the graphics screen. So you should still have like 12K for code. Anyway, you can download that directly off his GitHub if you want to take a look at it. If you click on it here, you can actually see it in ASCII format, so you can actually read it. We should stop playing it. But not too much to it. Nice little simple game. And if you want to give it a shot, you can go download from his GitHub, and the link is in the show notes. So that finally ends all the gaming stuff. So let's switch over to the regular news. So first up, we have CoCo Town, who's actually got a couple videos out this week. So the first one is talking about squishing the tires. So he wants to change the animation of the ship of your buggy while it's jumping because it just looks a little off. So I'll let him play the intro. I won't play the whole video. Obviously, I'll let you guys go watch it. He actually apparently took a suggestion from me for how he's going to try to do it. I'll let you guys decide, and you can report back next week whether you think I had a good idea or not.
Hello and welcome to Game Revolutions, the series where I write code the way they did 35 years ago. Except for the fact that I'm using a full screen editor on a PC and a cross assembler, and I'm using an emulator debugger. Other than all of that stuff, it's exactly the way they did it back in the day. Today's episode is because of a comment that I received from L Curtis Boyle on YouTube. He gave me some advice on how to make the animation look a little.
You don't need to hear him prattling about me.
We don't want to hear it.
Something funny. He's got a little comparison video where he shows the original jump animation, then what he changed it to. Thought he did anyway. I'll just play his fourth attempt because that's the one he kind of settled on.
Okay, it's definitely more subtle now. Is it too subtle?
You can see the tires are just going up, down a little bit.
When I jump, they don't squish. They don't squish. If I slide it a bit, is it noticeable? Was the other too much and this is too little? Whatever, I'm going with this. I think this is better. The other.
And like in the previous episode, he finally fixed the jump because the jump was going like a fixed speed up and down. Now it does kind of that, sine wave arching thing. So that looks a lot better too. But he wanted to have the, because he didn't want to sit there and calculate every pixel and figure out where it's going to scroll. So he just has a bit of a timing loop with the tires squished together as if it's riding over a bumpy road. But the game's coming along pretty good. So definitely if you want to check that out, he goes into some of the plot that went behind it and, kind of doing the adjustments. And this is where, Nick would be good at talking about this stuff too, where you finesse things. I would be lazy and just stop as soon as it looked even close to right. But, you go through all these different things, and he did 4 different things here, changing the rate and the amount of squishing that the tires do, trying to come up with one that looked good to his eye. And I know Nick has the same eye for detail and making sure that things look good. They aren't necessary for gameplay, but just make it a more visually stunning display of graphics and animation, etc. And then Nick, how much time do you think you spend on doing these finessing things versus the actual coding just to get the main thrust of whatever you're trying to do?
Way too much.
My question: why doesn't he replace Panama?
Why doesn't he what?
Replace Panama.
Oh, in his world there?
Yeah. Mexico's gone. Panama's gone. What the heck happened?
It's probably the scaling is just a bit too far.
I need the backstory.
Or maybe this is out in the
on
future after the oceans rise and it just wiped out Central
Oh, it's all flooded. Okay.
America there.
I'm moving to the moon.
Like
It's
look how
green.
small Greenland got.
Oh yeah, and the North Pole's gone. Okay, we understand now. Never mind.
It's so green on the moon.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's all the algae pools in the ocean. And then this one here. So Nick and I, of course, did our CoCo 6 episode 2 weeks back now, I guess. And we got a fair bit of feedback from people saying it was really interesting when they have to try it, and nobody really has so far. Rick Adams did a little bit of testing with it. But he was basically testing it against one of his structured basic compilers. But CoCoTown decided to actually take the demos that I put up on the disk image, and of course, we're watching what Nick had done, and he decided to take it a bit further and actually show some new things that I hadn't put in the demo myself. So I'll play a little bit of the intro, then I'll jump ahead a little bit to show you some of the stuff that he came up with for demoing. And he also goes into some of the things that he's calling them forbidden commands. Maybe I did word it that way, I can't remember. But I did mention that some graphics commands will function properly, but the results won't be what you expect because of the way it calculates 2-bit patterns to be colors, whereas semi-graphics is done totally differently. So you start getting like almost moire patterns of colors coming in, or patterns that change the color as they're being progressed type thing. And there's some interesting effects there. And I even mentioned at the end there, I said, you should try with paint and circle because you can get some really wacky effects doing that. But I will play a little bit of the intro, and then I'll play a little bit of it a little bit later on because it was nice to see somebody actually, pick up the ball and run with it a bit.
Hello and welcome. Have you seen that CoCo tech yet? If not, what are you doing? It's really cool. L Curtis Boyle and Nick Marentes teach us how we can use SemiGraphics 12 and 24 from BASIC. That's all 9 colors in almost high-resolution graphics. Today, I'm going to take a look at the stuff that they have posted and see what I can do with it. In particular, I will go over the subroutines that they have written that allow you to use SemiGraphics from BASIC. I will write some demos and see what things look like. Now, there are some limitations with SemiGraphics, and of course, I will be doing everything within those constraints. And also not within those constraints, because I want to see what happens when you do stuff that has unpredictable behavior. I bet you're interested in that too, right? Also, I'll be talking about a consideration when the T1 VDG chip is present. Plus, I made a small extension that allows you to print any arbitrary VDG character to the screen. All of the code that you're seeing, you can download. There's a link in the description down below, or possibly to the right. I think sometimes YouTube is messing with me because sometimes I've seen that description over there on the right. I don't know why, but I bet wherever I'm pointing, it's going to be not there. But anyway, hunt around, find the description. You can find all the code that I'm showing. You'll also find a link to the original CoCo Tech episode and a link to the downloads that L Curtis Boyle and Nick Marentes have provided for us. And now, without any further ado, this gift that Curtis and Nick have.
Okay, so fast forward. You guys can watch the episode, obviously. I will say he's much better and not as long-winded explaining things as I am, so I think I'm going to hire him for all future CoCo Tech episodes I design. So he goes through it all, and then he actually does a demo. So the first one he did was just doing some horizontal lines with all colors.
So you can see there are groups of 8 colors with black in between them. And this is stunning because you're getting a full 192 pixels, vertical pixels going up and down. 192 horizontal scan lines going down the screen. That's like P Mode 4 where you have to pay the price and only get 2 colors and maybe artifacts, but that's it. But we've got 9 colors. So just from looking at this, you might think, oh goodness, this is P Mode 4 with 9 colors and I can do it all from BASIC. There couldn't possibly be any downside to this. But there are some limitations. So if I run number 2, this will give me some vertical stripes. They go up and down the screen and they're separated by horizontal pixels. Do you think we can get a full 256 worth of vertical stripes that alternate colors? Unfortunately, we can't. This is 1 byte, and it will represent 2 pixels on the SemiGraphics 24 screen. We only get 32 of these going across. That means we only get 64 pixels going across. And it's worse than that. We only have room for a single color value for this entire byte. These 3 bits give us 0 through 7 for the color, and these bits just decide if the left pixel will be lit up with that color or will be 0. And this bit tells you if the right pixel will be lit up with that color or will be 0. And that's where all those different arrays come in. When you poke a value from CF, what you're saying is, I want both nibbles of that byte to be the same color. And
like I said, I'll let you guys go watch for the details. I just want to show some of the demos he did. It explains visually what's going on.
He does explain it well, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does much better than I did.
You'll notice these are much thicker horizontally than the horizontal lines are thick vertically. So unfortunately, no, we're not really getting that P Mode 4 resolution, at least not horizontally. Okay, we've been following the rules up until now, but let's get a little nasty. So now I'm going to do some vertical stripes, and I'm going to cram them together. So as the colors alternate, they're going to do so much closer together, and things are not going to look the way we expect them to look. And this will be done in 3 rounds. First, where both pixels of each byte are lit up, then when only the left pixel is lit up, and then only when the right pixel is lit up. The code to do this is pretty much exactly the same as the code for the previous demo, but the step size is different. So now we go from 0 to 255 stepping by 9, and within those 9 steps, we do all 9 colors. So we switch the color from pixel to pixel, even though we're still in that same byte. And here you can see we do it first with the full byte lit up for both pixels, then with only the left pixel, and then with only the right pixel. You can see as it's drawing, things like kind of change themselves as it's drawing. We're not
Kind of a
getting
neat
that
effect, though.
resolution we might have hoped for if like things just magically went our way. Now we're just lighting up the left half. And now we're just lighting up the right half.
All right. The next one, this one's cool. Using diagonal lines. And this is where BASIC is trying to map 2 bits per pixel to be a color versus semi-graphics, which, as he pointed out, has 3 bits per color, plus it has which pixels are lit up, etc. within the character. So it's done quite differently, though the mapping on the screen is basically the same. So you definitely get some interesting effects here, including some moire patterns. So a bit of that.
But if we get nasty again and do diagonal lines, which we're not supposed to do, we actually get something that looks pretty cool. This is the main loop for the code we're going to run. We cycle through all of the non-black colors. We print a message up at the top that tells us which color is being shown. I'm going to talk more about this a bit later. We poke that color as full for both pixels of each byte. And then we run a subroutine that will draw all the diagonal lines. So here's that subroutine that draws the diagonal lines. And remember, it's doing this all for a single color. First, we draw diagonal lines that start at the center of the screen, and then the other endpoint goes up and down the left and right sides of the screen. I do this in steps of 3 simply because adding extra space between the lines makes some neat patterns. Then a similar loop will again start the lines from the center of the screen, but this time it will go from left to right on the top and bottom of the screen. So we should see a full kind of tunnel effect. So first with color 1, we go up and down and then left and right, and you can actually see what looks like some fairly thin lines here. Now we're color 2. And it looks like remnants of the first color are left, although I'm not sure if that's the case or if it's just that this color has those colors in it. Some of these colors seem to wipe over completely the previous color. Others don't seem to, but I'm not totally sure. But this is looking fairly high resolution.
Makes a good screensaver, too.
It certainly is with the
It would look good in
length
machine guard,
vertically.
wouldn't it?
This one's my favorite. Look at all those colors. Oh my gosh. P mode 4, eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Even more.
Definitely a neat effect, though.
Yeah.
And did you notice all the while we were doing this almost high resolution graphics, we had text characters on the same screen at the same time.
That only
Speaking
works
of
on a
VDG
CoCo 1, 2,
text
or a
characters,
Gimme X equipped
hey,
CoCo
look,
3.
a couple new tests.
Or Dragon.
Falling
VCC.
9 will draw the 9
Or
VDG character on the screen and then animate it falling down.
Yeah, the falling 9's cool. I hadn't even thought about doing the effect, but it kind of gives you the matrixy effect. Fast forward, you can see that one. It kind of explains how the whole thing works, which we covered in our version.
Stripe of where it used to be, and then I put my buffer down into the next line where it's supposed to start. So it definitely doesn't look like it's falling. It looks more like there's this window that's lowering down and we're seeing into some other dimension of nines. And get put does indeed look faster, but that window effect is the same. It's not really falling. And that is, of course, because the 9 is only capable of being drawn on the beginning of a 12-line boundary. So if we try drawing it anywhere outside of that boundary, we'll sort of get a 9 in the middle, and then we'll kind of continue and then wrap around to the end again. And finally, alphanumeric print
This is
test.
part he added, because
So
I
this
had
involves
digits
also
programmed
a
in 0 to
subroutine
9 for
that I
scores,
added,
etc. And he
and
actually
also some code from the
I should probably
original
stop and talk
subroutines
about this
that
a
I
little bit.
changed.
So I did notice when I was creating my test program that there was a pattern. I didn't quite figure out what it was yet to predict what the text characters would be, whether it's inverse video text or regular text, and also to figure out, when an A is going to show up, when a B is going to show up. And it's based on the 2-bit, color pixel patterns being merged with the semi-graphics type thing. So there's a mathematical formula, which he figured out. I was going to try to figure that out before I did the presentation, but then I got busy and I never got a chance to go back to it before the presentation itself. So I'm glad he did finish that off, because mine was limited to just the digits, and now he's got all the text characters in there too. And basically, to draw a text character, you just do a line BF for the height of a character cell, and it'll put it in. You just call this little subroutine, which remaps what poke into 178 you have to do to get that character to show up, and then you just draw it. And you can actually draw, like, just say the middle parts, because there's extra green pixels on the top and the bottom that are unused by most of the text characters, unless you have an alternative set, like Dennis Bathory kits used to sell the lower kit that used the full 8x12 part of the grid. And the T1, of course, shifts everything to make room for descenders, so it's a little bit different too. But you can actually draw just pieces of it in the middle and still have a legible character that you don't have to draw all 12 pixel lines. And of course, if you do something in Protectors 2, you can start doing tricky things like drawing this one's an A, and the next scan line's can be from an X, and the next scan lines can be from a color block and whatever else. And you can actually create your own, kind of like some of the Tetris games of the Dragon, etc. used, where they kind of mix piece scan lines of different characters together to create brand new characters. You're limited; you don't have pixel control over it, but if you can make things out of each scan line from various characters that are built into the VDG itself, you can come up with new ones. So let's fast forward a little bit here.
G24 test, and you'll want to take a look at the VDG characters and look at what the background is and what the foreground is. For both these characters up here and these numerals, you've got the light green on the dark green. And when we move on to the letters, we've got the dark green on the light green, but the numerals stay light on dark.
And this is where he's going in and explaining the difference between the regular VDG and the T1, because the T1 has some extra flag bits in the same byte that we're using to control some of this. And I didn't take that fully into consideration because I don't have a T1 here to test. So it was actually doing some inverse video when it shouldn't have been, etc. So he's actually changed the poke masking off on the FF22 location that controls this so that it remains consistent between both versions of the VDG. So thanks to him for that as well. And then he did a test on a real CoCo2 with a real T1 VDG.
Real CoCo2 T1 hardware through a VCR through an Elgato digital converter. But for completeness, I did try things out on my real CoCo, and sure enough, the original SG24 test looks the reverse from what it looked like on a non-T1 XROR. And when I made my change, then it looked the same. In all cases, my real T1 hardware was mirroring what XROR was doing when it was set to T1 mode. I should also mention a couple caveats. I've only been exploring SG24. I haven't done anything with SG12. Also, I have not tried to make any of this fast. There are many pieces of performance advice that Curtis includes in the materials that he's distributed, and since I wasn't writing a game or anything, I just kind of ignored them all. Things like use the high-speed poke, and use pcopy or get put wherever you possibly can rather than redrawing everything using line. And of course, in some of my nastier demos, I outright ignored all of the limitations and constraints just to see for fun what would happen. Anyway, I hope you found this enjoyable and interesting.
Anyway, you should definitely go check out his video. He actually goes through the code, statement by statement to explain exactly what it's doing and why it's doing what it's doing. And like I said, he's much more concise and better at presenting it than I was. So if you fell asleep during my presentation, just go watch this. It's about a third the length and covers more. So I look forward to seeing if he actually does a follow-up, trying the paint and the circle commands and stuff like that too, because it's definitely some interesting effects I found when I was fiddling with it, which I did not include in my original demo. Next up, this is from Henry Strickland. So this one here is covering the rescue facility and how to use it of the Axiom ROM code that is part of the Frobio software that is used with Rick's CoCoIO network card. And this will actually rescue the ROM itself. Now, is this something you've tried yourself, Rick, or is this something that Henry's been working independently on?
I haven't tried it myself because I just burn a new one if I ever mess one up. But I mean, I may have went through it once, but no, this is a good example that I.
So basically, this is to like reflash your ROM to fix it then?
If you break it so bad that it won't boot anymore, there's still a little stub of a boot that won't get wrecked. So you can hold down like, geez, I don't even remember anymore. But you can force it to reinstall itself even though it's been killed. And so he's actually using it to, I believe, put the ROM on the PiCo that's behind us.
Okay. Since this video is only 3.5 minutes, I think I'll just play the whole thing. Pardon to Henry, or apologies to Henry if he didn't want me to do that, but I figured it's pretty cool what he did here, so I'll just play it.
Here's how to do a rescue burn on the EEPROM with the CoCoIO R. This first card is the CoCoIO R. I've taken the lid off, but the little switch is now visible, and it's to the left, which is the read position as opposed to the right position. It's in my mini MPI, and my switches are pushed forward, so we'll be booting off of the rescue portion of that EEPROM. And this is to burn an experimental ROM. I did a make all inside the CoCo shelf inside the build FrobIO directory, and that extra option is enabling my experiment, so ignore that. And now I'm ready to burn, and so there's a binary in there named broadcast burn. The -B flag takes the IP address of this Linux machine on the interface that is connected to the CoCoIO R board. The -D flag takes something that's just displayed on the screen to help you know you're doing the right thing, or that it's seeing the packets. And then less than the DEC-B format binary starting at C3000 and with entry at C3000. So you can start at C3000 and go on up to DFFF with your own code, but keep the initial portion from C1000 to up to C300. I meant to say 100 earlier. Contains the rescue. And how to enable the rescue, this is going to be hard. I'm going to reset the machine, but I have to hold down 1, 2, and 3 while I reset the machine. And try one more time. Okay, if you succeed, you get colons on the bottom half of the screen. It's not very verbose because there's not much space in the EEPROM to do this. And now I'll come over here on Linux and I will start the command, and we see the display on the top line, and the counter is doing like 58 out of 116. And there's going to be 116 O's down here at the bottom. So when that all looks good, and it's cycling through all those pages, which is why the counter goes, I flip to write mode, and I'm going to press the X button and hold it. And as I do, those O's at the bottom turn to X's. So I hold it down until all of the O's have become X's, which is now. So I can let go the X, flip the switch back to read mode, and reset the CoCo, and now it's running my new ROM.
That's pretty interesting way to do it. Now, do you have any comments on that?
So what happens is, like, the first 300, which whatever that is, decimal.
768 bytes.
Okay, that first little chunk is enough code to completely reinstall the ROM if it gets broken. And it's never written to, it's never changed. So if you attempt to upgrade your ROM and something goes wrong, now, I don't know the exact details of getting the server to talk back to you with the 1, 2, 3 reboot trick, but the whole idea behind where he's going here is you aren't going to die, because that first 300 bytes is never going to change, and then you can always get the rest of the 8K ROM back, even if it
Or
goes
upgraded
by,
or whatever, yeah.
because we're burning things to a CoCo over the Ethernet here, so there's a very good chance that sometime somewhere something's going to break, and you don't really want to have to get me to ship you a new EEPROM just to start over. So he's come up with the solution, and I think it's a great thing.
It is.
Yeah, because you can upgrade in the field without any special hardware like JTAGs and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, the CoCo can write this as long as you have that first 700 whatever bytes of how to copy stuff off the Ethernet onto
like
the
a
ROM.
bootstrap.
Yeah, it's a little bootstrap in there. So he had to squeeze the rest of the code down enough to, get that 1K for the bootstrap. So, yeah, very exciting. Makes it more durable product. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's something I wish some of the other hardware had the ability to do. Like the SDC is one of the few other bits of hardware where you can upgrade the firmware and you can upgrade the ROMs from the CoCo itself. You don't need a PC with a JTAG, USB adapter, and special software. And especially if you're not familiar with that kind of thing, that's pretty intimidating, because you have no idea if you might just fry it and then you can't boot the CoCo SDC at all type thing, or anything else of using it. The Gimme X also has a JTAG updater, but you can't do it from the CoCo. You have to hook it up to a PC, for example. It'd be nice to have something like this as an option on it, so you can just do it from a CoCo itself, as long as you have access to the net.
It's interesting because this whole EEPROM project started just to make storage for the Ethernet card. I didn't know if it would ever be a boot ROM or anything like that, or maybe it's just user storage. You could put user state there when you shut down, and when you start it back up, you'd have it. But anyway, that was the point. I started with making the CoCo write it first, and then what can we do with it? And that's why we ended up with no JTAG and yada yada.
Yeah. Hey, TRS80 Retroprogramming has also been working on his Luigi style games. He's just been working on sprites, and this one here is kind of one where he goes through and is figuring things out as he's going. It's one of his live programming ones. So you're just trying to figure out, where to put a bar, have the character jump up onto it as a level type thing. So this is kind of a longer video with him going through and figuring out bugs and mistakes as he goes. And then he kind of did a later summary that basically just covers, with no commentary, kind of showing it with a bit of sound effects added just for flair. But it's all in basic, and he actually runs across and then jumps up to the next level type thing. He hasn't animated the character yet, but he's got some moves. So I just kind of like showing you live game development as you're kind of figuring out things. And where he's going to go with it. I have no idea if he's going to try to like actually clone a Mario Brothers game, or if he's going to use the characters to create something else. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't see it and go hard on it, because Nintendo's kind of famous for protecting their copyright and trademarks. I'm hoping by using the pastel color set, Nintendo won't even recognize it. Next up, TGB Chris released the video that I talked about last week. And this is where he's actually got the Tandy Network 3 controller working with the CoCo using a Model 12 as a host. Now, he had to implement all this himself. I mean, the original Radio Shack advertisements for the Network 3 did say there was going to be a CoCo client, but because of the way the Network 3 works, unlike the Network 1 or 2, which is cassette port based, this is serial based. And of course, the Bitbanger port on the CoCo is missing a ton of lines that are useful and used by all the other versions of Network 3 stuff. Because basically we just have carrier detect, ground, send and receive data. So a lot of the protocols are using stuff like DTR and DSR and that kind of stuff, which doesn't work. So he came up with a way using the download protocol, deload. Then Microsoft put in the actual ROMs for the CoCo 1 and 2 and actually gets it. So it's a bit coarse, I guess, but it does work. So I'll play a little bit of the intro and then I'll show you a little bit of the demo he did a little bit later on.
Hey everyone, I'm TJB Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and tonight we are continuing my quest to remake the lost configuration for the TRS80 Network 3 controller. The TRS80 Network 3, for those of you who may not remember, was a serial port-based educational solution for classroom networks. In its final form, it only really ever saw use with the TRS80 Model 3s and 4s via the serial port as mentioned, allowing you to use low-spec classroom computers for each of the student seats. You know, computers without disk drives, computers without all the RAM in them, certainly computers without printers, just your basic computer with an added serial port at your student stations and a central host computer which is in fact decked out. This would have your floppy drives, your printers, and possibly even a hard drive. And putting these all units together with the Network 3 controller would allow students to gain disk-like functionality over the serial port, allowing them to load and save files and giving them limited disk basic features that they wouldn't otherwise have. This allows central storage and loading of work and, via the host computer, limited communication between students, though direct communication is not possible. But that wasn't always to be the way. Tandy did have another configuration planned for the Network 3 and noted as such in the Network 3 controller's hardware manual and in the 1982 Radio Shack catalog where the Network 3 first made its debut. Planned was an additional configuration using TRS80 color computers as student stations, as seen to my left and right, using the 4-pin Bitbanger serial port on the color computer and a TRS80 Model 2 or equivalent as the host station. In fact, the color computer and the Model 2 combination never did see the light of day that we know. In fact, I don't even think the cables are known. As far as we know, in all of the discussions we've had post finding this out, that was a capability that was aspirational at best. But if anybody actually did work with that kind of a setup or knows of anything that did exist briefly, I would love to hear it. So far, we've not come across anything. I should note this will not be a deep dive into Network 3. I will cover some basic operational bits for the controller as they relate to using it with a color computer, but this is not going to be a deep dive. If you would like to learn more about Network 3, you should check out a few different resources. I've got links in the video description to abytebehind.com. My friend Joel over there has gone to great lengths to acquire, preserve, and share a whole bunch of Network 3 resources. The software, the manuals, technical controller manuals, the Network 3 operating software for the Models 3 and 4, and a lot of great commentary on preserving and recovering the Network 3 software and documentation. And it is without that information that this would be much more difficult, if not impossible. So check that out. If you'd like to see the Network 3 in action with TRS-80 Model 3 and 4 computers, you should check out my YouTube channel, specifically my Tandy 2023 videos on Tandy's educational offerings. I not only demo the Network 3 with Model 3 and 4 systems, I even go on to show the auto boot functionality that was available to certain Model 3 and 4 workstations if they had the appropriate ROM. So the machines could boot right from the host without any additional hardware. Neat, and this was 1982, folks. See, we've come a long way, but we really haven't. And then I'll go into what makes the Model 2 and the color computer configuration works, what makes the color computer in some ways ideally suited to Network 3 and in some ways not, and some of the eccentricities that comes with making them work together. And finally, I'm going to show you my all-in-one solution for using host resources on my TRS-80 Model 12, making use of a protocol, software protocol built into the color computer called deload, and a couple of other things. We're going to revisit a program I wrote 4 years ago for Xenix on the TRS80 Model 16, adapting it to the Model 12 and CPM, and we're going to take a look at it in action and see what networked color computers and a TRS80 Model 2 could have possibly looked like. So let's get right into this and take a look at what Network 3 is, and then we'll get into the color computer and deload, and finally we'll demo this out.
He goes through a lot of really good detail in here, like not going super deep into the weeds, but enough that you kind of understand what the limitations of the CoCo's serial port had compared to the Model 3s and 4s as to why they probably didn't bother, fully implementing it later on. Well, I can show maybe a little bit of the actual running deload, etc.
I have a file called intro on here. Let's load that. And you can see the file loading. We've got 3 blocks. And we're done. And so we're going to give this file a list. And we see we have a basic program here. I'll just give it a run. Hi there. I was loaded using, and when I didn't write the name of the program on there, I was going to put it in multiple stars and got ahead of myself. My name is TJB Chris. Hello, TJB Chris. How high should I count? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. So now we have a program into the color computer 64K without having to connect a cassette or serial port. This is just like the deload program before, except now it's running on a Model 12 and CPM through a Network 3 controller. But what happens if I select one of the other stations? So station 1 is the 64K color computer. Station 7 is the color computer 1, the gray one. And station 15 is the color computer 2. So let's select station 7. But before we go over, and we're still on the color computer, the 64K color computer, let's try and do a deload. And we're just going to deload intro again. And it looks like nothing's happening. So this is where we're just going to wait this out. What will deload do? I mean, I know what deload will do, but we don't do what deload does. That was alliterative. Almost alliterative. Will deload just sit there like cload or list? Or will it do something better? How long will it take?
So basically what he's done here is he's changed which of the computers it's supposed to be talking to. So this is not the computer that's got the direct link because he changed the port number.
And deload it. Watch the channel, aren't you?
As he mentions here as to why it's taking so long to figure out there's nothing there.
As I'm sitting here staring at the screen along with you, and you probably skipped it. I don't get to skip it.
I'll make you guys watch it too.
Should have looked at the clock to see when this started.
Of course you will.
There it is, I/O error. So it turns out deload has 5 retries in it, but those retries have very long waits in between to give the other end time to respond. So it's really important to note that if the deload command can't find anything at the other end, you could be waiting 30 or 40 seconds. And it's also worth noting that just polling the serial port to see if there's a byte coming in and then moving on to the next one, like having Network 3 try and do an auto select, would work if the color computer was sending out a barrage of hello, 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 but instead it's like, hello? And then it waits a very long time. And then it's like, hello? And then it waits a very long time. Rinse, lather, and repeat 3 more times.
Hello?
Okay, so now let's take a look at the help menu here, and let's take a look, we'll take a closer look at the screen here, and I'll show you a close-up view of what it looks like when the deload server actually loads something. Okay, here we go. Now that we've reversed it, I'm going to deload a program called hello. And I need to select station 1 again. See, that's the thing about the Network 3. If you select another station, it's not going to work, but it should catch it on one of the retries. There it goes. And we're done. So that kind of proves the Network 3 bit. I actually selected the port after I started the deload. And of course, if I do my list over here, hello you rummy buzzard, my favorite Tandy phrase, and it's just a hello you rummy buzzard program. Okay, so let's go back to station 7 and let's take a look at the TRS80 color computer 1, and we're going to try printing, but just to the display console on the Model 12. Okay, with the color computer 1 in focus, let us deload a program. I'm going to deload the intro back in here. Actually, first I'm going to do something else. I'm going to show you command mode. So while this doesn't actually support the directory command that my Xenix counterpart did, the command mode is still here. And what command mode does is if you prefix the file name with a dash, we'll take that command and send it over to the server, and if it has a match, it'll build a basic program on the fly that it then sends back to the color computer, as has happened now. So when this finishes up as it has done, you're just going to get a program that says deload server command mode. That's the header of the program. And of course, if there had been anything useful in there, it would have been followed by official news and or instructions. But let's do this. Let's deload the intro again. And this is where the fun's going to happen. Okay, now that it's here, you can see we have it in the color computer. And we're going to go and flip around to the TRS80 Model 12 as the big view here. And we're going to take a look at our help options again. So if I hit H for help, you can see that we have the option to print the CoCo printer data to the display or the printer, and we can toggle the two. So now we're on line printer and display. Now we're just on display. So let's do this. The way that I've set this up is not only can you transmit programs to the color computer, you can get them back, obviously. And I do this using the CoCo's printer functionality. But before you can do this, as indicated here on the screen, you have to configure the color computer for 1200 baud. And it's worth noting that you could theoretically configure the serial port for higher values, but I'm going with an out-of-the-box stock Network 3 printer configuration for the color computer. So in that situation, you're not going to really have the hardware or the time or wherewithal to play tricks with the serial port baud rates. But it would be pretty neat, and I wonder how fast this would actually work. 'Cause you could go up to, what, like 38400 or something like that. So you could have 1000 printer and also the display console on the Model 12. Now that we have that done, unlike deload, if you type list on the color computer, it'll sit there and wait forever. The way that printing on the color computer works in a nutshell is the color computer will only send a character if the printer on the other side sends a period. And then when it gets a period, the CoCo sends a character. And then it waits for another period. And it does this one character at a time. So for the deload server to be able to do this, it has a special mode where it will push a period and wait for a character and do this until a certain amount of time passes with no characters received, and it'll stop. So here we go. We're going to do an list. And then I'm going to hit the P key over here. And you can see the program coming from the color computer, and now it's on the display console. There we have it. We've transferred data from the color computer to the Model 12.
And right, it's a little server software that he's running on his Model 12 here. Also has the ability to put it to the printer. So it actually will directly hook to the, like he's got a Star Micronics NX1000 line printer hooked up to his Model 12. And if you go through his configuration to set it to print to the printer itself, when you do an list on the CoCo, it actually prints on a real printer connected to the Model 12. And you've also got the option to print to both the screen and the printer simultaneously. So he's actually got printer protocols built into this as well as the ability to load and save programs across back and forth. So I think he got it working pretty well. I mean, this probably would have been good enough for most classrooms. There's some of the auto update ROM type stuff and auto detect stuff that wouldn't work properly because, you know, we're missing some pins from the RS-32, but, you know, basic functionality could have worked. I'm not sure if Tandy just didn't think of that, or maybe, you know, Tandy was, I'm trying to remember, when did the RS-232 pack go on sale? That was late 83, I think.
Right.
So they could have used that, but that requires a multi-pack, that requires the RS-232 pack. Now you don't have cheap workstations anymore. Now you've got expensive workstations. At that point, you might as well just throw a disk drive on the
right. CoCo. $90 a seat for serial ports.
Plus the multi-pack, which is 189 or something, I think, back when it was first released. Because
well, if you only had the RS-232 pack, you wouldn't need a multi-pack.
That's true. Except the RS-232 pack came with its own ROM terminal program you'd have to bypass.
You would need a different ROM to make it do the Tandy thing, and they just said, no, we aren't.
So I guess they could have made an alternate, you know, ROM version or something, or a bigger ROM. I'm trying to remember, has anybody actually looked at the ROM on the RS-232 pack's terminal program? Is there room to, you know, add in some of this type of stuff on there, or is it
none of my packs have ROMs?
It's
One
only
of the
4K,
hacks that I had to do, the default one is 4K. And there's a couple other patches that you can do that you can go up to 16K ROMs. And of course, you know, putting in a socket. But
yeah, Tandy's not going to do any of that for 30 people in the classroom. So
well, if this was a bigger project, I think a more you know, a more robust RS-232 pack, like, you know, Ian's reproduction, you know, where you have the larger ROM would be good.
So the stock RC32 pack from Tandy had a 4K ROM?
Yes.
Not an 8? Oh, okay.
It was just a little terminal program. It didn't do squat. So
Very dumb
Yeah.
terminal program, but yeah.
Well, it also had the ability where you could download a basic program via the terminal program, put it in a memory, and then you could dump back out to basic. But yeah,
And it would be intact and ready to go. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
but trust me, all the RS-232 packs that I've worked on for I think 3 people where I upgraded them so they could take up to a 16K ROM, they started using HDB DOS in them. So
yeah. Hey, it's a really cool video. There's a lot of good technical detail. He's actually said that, you know, he doesn't know too many people that actually have Network 3 controllers. So he wasn't planning on releasing the code for it because these are fairly rare. But he said if there's demand for it, he would definitely consider releasing it because he's got the software written already. So why not, right? He's got the main, you know, host driver on the Model 12 running, and then he's got the software that's specific to the CoCo in there as well. So, and using the deload protocol that's already built in an extended basic. Really, really good video though. I'm glad he did this one because it shows what could have been, because this was something that Tandy themselves had planned, had mentioned in their catalogs. They had a 5-foot cable ready to go and on sale for it. And then they didn't do anything with it. They never actually sold it, never finished the software, at least as far as anybody knows. Mark Siegel, I don't know. I think you were just starting at Tandy around the time this would have been coming out, 82-ish. I don't know if you would have known anything about this or whether it was outright canceled or just kind of fell by the wayside or what happened. Interesting to hear your perspective on it. Next up, we have Pedro Pena with, or Rocky Hill as he's known on YouTube. And this is kind of crossing the streams here because he actually goes to install Bob Emery's VDG breakout board on an MC10. So I'll play a little bit of the intro here, and then I'll play a little bit at the very end just to show what kind of an effect that had on its display output.
This is my MC10, and my MC10 only comes with standard outputs here, which makes it difficult to connect to modern displays. The MC10 uses a VDG chip, which makes it possible to hook up the RGB to HDMI adapter, which I have done. I've done that by wiring straight into the VDG. I also have an adapter board, a VDG breakout board that I made that fits well in the other CoCos because they have more girth than this one. However, the MC10 is thin enough where I can't close the case with that adapter inside. Coconut Bob has developed a very thin, low profile breakout board that solders to the bottom of the main board. And in this video, I'm going to install this and then hook it up to an RGB to HDMI. So now, let's look inside the MC10. Here's the MC10.
And I'll let you guys watch that. He did have some issues, which you can watch the full video on. And it's mainly for the keyboard connector, nothing to do with the actual VDG adapter. But the proof is in the pudding type thing, I guess. So we'll just jump to that.
All right, let's look up here. You see, I'm gonna hit the power switch here. Okay, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yay! It works. Very nice. It's nice and clean, nice and crisp. This is definitely the best way to do RGB to HDMI on the MC10. It is.
I will mention, he mentioned there's some other, VDG adapters, et cetera, for doing the same kind of thing. But because the MC10 is so crammed in space as far as the case goes, you couldn't actually put the top of the case back on without it, flopping around because it just can't do it. The thinness of Bob's little board here is what makes this possible because now it's so thin it just fits on the underside of the circuit board and fits perfectly fine. You can close the case properly. Now, obviously, if you want to go even further, you can get a CoCo VGA from Brendan, which you do have to add that little extender thing in the middle that actually makes the MC10 taller to make room for the boards and the connectors for that matter, because it's outputting various things. And that's another solution to do it. But if you want something that maintains the original size and shape of the MC10 itself, this is the best option. So if you want to get the details, obviously watch the video, but it works good. And that's a nice clean picture. That's really nice. Most MC10s I've seen hooking up to RF are or even worse than CoCo RF, which is bad to begin with. Okay, next up, we've got a bit of a test video here. This was done by Jamie Lee Chow, and he was using Extended Basic, which will be on the right-hand side, and the compiled version using Glenn Hewlett's compiler, which is currently in alpha beta, I guess you would call it. And you can check that under the Basic Compilers channel. I think, Mark, are you planning on making a new channel for his compiler specifically? Mark Overholz?
Yeah, I think we're trending that direction. Just because, well, we don't usually get a lot of traffic in the generic Basic Compiler channel, but, you know, a lot of chit chat that'll keep everything together. So we'll probably make a new channel.
Okay. So this is basically a screen capture of the two side-by-side running regular Extended Basic, and it's basically sorting the lengths of lines. And you'll be able to see the speed difference here. Unfortunately, I can't zoom this up because it was saved as a QuickTime movie, but you can still see the relative speeds of the two running here. So. And you see on the left, it's already done with using the compiled version, and it's not even close to being done on the right-hand side. So that's an example of how much faster Glenn Hewlett's compiler can run that particular type of a demo. And of course, there's some restrictions to it, as he's mentioned. Currently, it's set up for P-Mode 4 only. And that's to make optimized routines. You don't have to worry about figuring out, am I in a 2-color mode? Am I in a 4-color mode? What are my actual vertical and horizontal resolutions? And I have to do checks against, depending on what mode it is, do this. So it's all hard-coded for the one mode. I'd be really interested, I don't know if Glenn's listening here, but I would really keen to see if our SG1224 demos, and SG24 in particular, would be able to work with your compiler, because I would like to see what kind of speedups you could do using SG24 graphics with 9 colors, because it's the exact same screen size as P-Mode 4. So I don't know if you wanted to make a special version for SG24 to, map colors and stuff, et cetera, or if you want to just kind of cheat like we did and just have a limited command set that can access it. But it'd be interesting to see the kind of speed ups you can get doing this. And not to be outdone, Micro Games Basic or UG Basic, depending on what you want to call it. There's been updates to that as well. And he's got update blogs that he does both for the actual main branch, if you want to download the kind of tested versions, and then also the beta branch. And this, because this is a cross-platform basic compiler, it covers a whole bunch of different systems, and sometimes bug fixes or additions are for specific systems. But anyway, on the main branch here, the last week or so has been mostly bug fixes. Is improving CLS color for the CoCo. That's one specific. The new bell instruction was hanging the CoCo3 specifically, and that's been fixed now. Then there's some stuff for 6502. There's a print introduces spaces in the Dragon target. I'm not quite sure exactly what that one means. But once again, he's doing multiple updates every week here on this. So you can kind of follow the blog and then download and, give it a try yourself if you want to take a look at it. But then the beta branch added CPU jump indirect under 6809. So I guess the original one wasn't using the jump indirect machine language instructions for the 6809, I'm guessing. He also had the indirect for the 6502 as well. So I think he's maybe for table lookups and stuff that, jumping indirect for calling subroutines, et cetera, might be much more useful than, doing it the long way around. But definitely be, smaller code-wise. And then, some other ones that he did earlier. Not sure if any here are specific to the CoCo. Yeah, improving sales color, which you mentioned before. So these are stuff that he's currently still in the beta testing phase. You can download them and try them if you want to try, the bleeding edge. Or you can, choose the more stable regular main branch as well. But he keeps these blogs updated on both, so you can kind of see what he's done. Plus, he's been posting each individual update and what is entailed within it on the CoCo Discord and the UG Basic channel. This one, I'm sure we're going to get some discussion from the hardware guys here. So on the CoCo Facebook group, Jamie Elliott managed to get a 64K CoCo with a whack load of modifications to it, and there's some speculation as to what some of these mods are. Now, obviously, this could use some retrobreading, or maybe that's tobacco or something.
It's been in Ron's backyard for years.
Yeah. I'm buried in soft peat.
The 4K badge melted off. The keyboards turned brown.
Yeah, and he's got his extra switch here. It's even got a little joystick thing, which
joystick.
kind of reminds me.
Joystick, cool.
That reminds me, Bob
Joystick.
Emery did that. That's how we first met him before he started joining the show regularly. It was a video that he did where he showed his old CoCo he dug out that had a joystick built in.
He's even got that funky fire button from the one we saw last week.
Yeah. It's probably about it at Radio
And he's
Shack.
got left and right joysticks, which Bob
two
didn't do.
joysticks.
So on either side of your CoCo, you got built-in joysticks.
So that button is the fire button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Play games with your gal.
But there's more.
CoCo went into a game console.
Atari sticks.
Well, we think.
Well,
Yeah,
probably hooked
maybe.
to Matrix.
He's got this splitter. I think this is audio video. So he's basically done a composite out that's coming out of the back as well, it looks like.
Nice.
And this is showing some of the wiring internally.
Yep, nice joystick. You got them from Radio Shack. I have some.
You can see the potentiometers there. This is for the joystick itself. And then on the back, just look at all the crap he's added here. Like LEDs, 3 different switches. I have no idea what the hell they do.
Not a label inside it. Thoroughly approved.
I mean, you kind of have tracking. I mean, common ones at the time where you'd move, like if you're doing this on the front, you might move some of the switches on the back, like reset or power, so you don't have to reach all the way around. Say you have it tucked under a monitor stand or something that's hard to get at. You might have inverse video switches for the VG because that's one pin you basically flip the value of and you can get inverse video. But yeah, this has been extensively modified. And on the other side, there's even more, 3 more switches yet. So we got 6 switches here. I don't know. That's too many. I don't know what that does there.
More buttons on the outside than there are on the keyboard.
Well, he's got lights on the back, so figure that out.
And you can see some of the wiring here as it's coming in and extra switches. And you can see some of the speculation going here, trying to figure out exactly what the hell all this does.
And secret inside switches. Cool.
And you notice this is like a homemade breadboard tucked in under.
Yeah, it's a power supply.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a whole other board of stuff there. I don't know if you hardware experts can figure what this is just by looking at it. You can see this is an earlier, like probably a D board original because of the keyboard connectors, the old style. Some people are speculating this might be an EEPROM burner built right inside the case. Kind of awkward to take it out to burn an EEPROM though, wouldn't it? But I guess.
Right.
There's a relay there. Oh, there was.
Well, like I say,
you want to go back?
He's got LEDs on the back of the
what's
computer.
that relay there?
So many things going on here.
Yeah, like this. I've seen some pretty heavily modified CoCos back from our CoCo Club days here locally because they had a couple of hardware guys that were really into doing hacks. I've never seen this many in one CoCo 1 case.
Yeah, we got all these alternate power sources. Awesome. Line isolation. Okay.
Chip sockets and all these connectors and switches going out all over the damn place. And there's what it looks like the broad view, so you can kind of see all the switches coming out on the front and LEDs too, on both left and right sides.
That's a pretty dirty keyboard.
Yeah, I'm guessing chain smoking. That's the only time I've ever seen them this brown.
Note the nice silver heat shield on the bottom right of the picture.
Coated with iron oxide.
Or something, yeah.
And this here is a template. Now, this almost looks, I'd have to double check against the photo of the master key program, which is commercial software from Soft Sector Marketing, which basically did like a Sinclair does, where you hold down a shift key or something plus another key and you actually get command statements, kind of like the MC10 does as well. So I haven't typed it. So once you got used to this, you could actually type pretty fast and on a chiclet keyboard. That was actually kind of nice.
Quite a Franken CoCo.
Right. Trying to get that 5 legends per keycap thing going here.
Yeah. Like even the space bar does go to and go sub depending what other key you're hitting.
And the space, and yeah.
He's definitely using all 53 keys to its maximum potential. There's another shot there too.
Oh,
actually, this is an alternate one, so this is a different one.
Yeah, we have space and non-space on this one.
That was a good
non-space does.
That was a good feature of the old chiclet keyboards, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this machine still, with all those hacks and how rusty and old shape it is, it works.
It's fine.
With the original color, extended color basic ROM, which actually has some pretty bad bugs. So if you can get, yeah, we figured out the inverse video switch, obviously, here. And he's obviously got one of the extended lower kit style ones, because this is not a T1. This is way before the T1 would have existed.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's the actual lower kit, because that I think had taller characters for the default one. Maybe he burned his own custom
true
EEPROM for the big G.
descenders.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, real descenders.
There's without the lowercase. 32K RAM, obviously, or 64K probably. And then back to the beginning. So it's an all-in-one CoCo with both joysticks built in and inverse video built in and true lowercase built in and a bunch of other stuff. I have no idea what the hell it's doing, but that's a pretty compact, filled-in CoCo one.
Everything. That's what it's doing. Everything.
I just thought that was awesome. I hope he can make it to the fest with this sucker. I'd love to see this thing running in person. You guys can figure out what all the other extra bits are doing.
Right. They got extra keys on the keyboard too. I just saw that.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that before either.
Yeah.
I sure hope that is an extra power switch. That'd be annoying if I hit that by accident.
That's the arm the bomb is what that does.
Yeah.
So he's painted the case white as well.
Yeah, so it
And
kind of
then
looks like a 64K CoCo case that came out a couple years later, but this is like a D or C board era.
Right.
I think, did the early E boards have that old connector switch? Or was it the F board when they switched to the ribbon cable? I can't remember.
The D boards had the Jesus.
The D boards had the old one for sure. I
had
had one of those, but I
had
can't remember if
the
the E
thing.
board had the old one or the new one, or if they switched in the middle.
never seen an E board. I know the F board was the
Ribbon, yeah.
crap.
And the TDP, of course, was ribbon as well.
But yeah, who knows how many upper cases he sawed through to get to this. You know? Yeah.
Bob Emery is actually kind of guessing in the chat. He said, looks like a lower kit and EEPROM burner. Was this Dennis Kitz's machine? Well, Dennis is still around. Maybe we should ask him.
Right? Are you responsible for this?
Because he did sell those as commercial products, both the EEPROM burner and the lower kit. So
Right.
you may remember is why have your CoCo display look like a checkerboard? Because of the inverse video for lowercase. So that was his big ad spiel. Next up, we have David Collins on the Motorola 6809, 639, 6800 Assembly Language Programming group on Facebook. And we've covered his little 609 homebrew project before, and he says, I finally got the HB63C09M down to SBC size, which stands for, I'm hoping you hardware guys know, because I can't remember what that stands for.
Single board computer. He's just
Okay.
got it small.
And it's close to getting releasing the design file so everyone can join the fun building new and interesting firmware programs and whatever. Since it's designed for the 6309, the C model, this is actually rated for 3 megahertz too. So this would run pretty nice and quick. And he goes into a bit more details and stuff here actually in the comments if you want to, get some extra information there or contact him, etc. But looking forward to see what some people can do with this for sure.
That reminds me of that other project that we did a few years ago from an SBC that was 3.5 megahertz. It used the DIP 63C09.
Oh,
Yeah, because I mean, the 6309 was never officially rated above 3 megahertz, but I think even Hitachi acknowledged that it basically ran at 4 to 5 just fine.
Right.
And I know some of the CoCo guys like Kevin Darlington did overclock them like that with clock doubler circuits back in the late 80s.
When you see people putting dip chips inside of other dip chips, you know they're really squashing that design down.
Yeah,
You
it's
look at
yeah,
those
nested
things.
inception sockets there. Well, actually, I guess the ones on the inside, are those socketed or is that actually soldered?
Those are soldered inside of the socket, so you can stack them.
Yeah,
Some
one of the
people-
tricks that I've done is for the inside chips, put those in a socket, and then on the larger chip that goes around, I'll put 2 sockets, so that way I can stack it
yeah.
and still socket everything.
Yeah, no, but he has to fit inside of a tiny little case, so he doesn't have room to stack five sockets up. So yeah, the inside soldered, then you got a socket, so the outside fits over the top of the inside one. And theoretically, you can service all this stuff.
Hey, for you hardware tinkerers out there, this looks like an interesting project to give a shot. And
oh yes,
Quick, move on. David's getting excited.
Yeah. There we go.
really, Nick? Really?
Next up, this is another Jim Gary one, but this isn't a game per se, so I put it in the regular news instead of the game news. This is a program called Salesman, originally done by Keith and Stephen Brain from the 1984 book Artificial Intelligence, and this was the C64 version of the book. Now, these same authors did do some books for the Dragon 32 as well. And Jim actually mentions in his comments here that it's with some help from their other book for the Dragon 32. I don't know exactly what that means, if they had an alternative version of it there, a more primitive version, or exactly what he's entailing. I think he was in chat earlier, so if he still is, he can maybe mention what that's about. But basically, it's a little bit of an AI program, done back in '84, where it basically is trying to pretend to be a computer salesman, and you're supposed to ask it questions, what kind of computer should it recommend? And of course, they're all completely made up brands and stuff there, so it's kind of funny watching some of it. Now they have a ColecoVision, the Cabbage candy colored computer, the Commandeer 64, the Atria 600 GT. So you can tell where they're getting the names from. And then like here, the AI is recommending, if you're in the budget market, then what about the Atria 600 GT? How about an assembler? And then you respond, what you want to say about it. So here's the thing, if you want a Rolls Royce, then just look at the JCN PC, and it says, would you like a good keyboard? And then you type in a response, and it tries to narrow down, and then it tries to sell you on what command you should do. And like here's asking, do you require function keys? And then Jim's typing in, I hate function keys. Now, unfortunately, it's fairly slow. I've noticed some of its reactions are fairly quick, but others it takes many seconds for it to get a response. So I don't know if that's the language parser itself, or if it's a whack load of if-then statements trying to figure out, based on your input, what it should recommend next. But it's interesting how far AI has gotten since then.
Eliza becomes a car salesman.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, this is pretty interesting from the historical perspective. So this is the TV RDB channel on YouTube. And this is a television commercial from 1984 for Input Magazine, which was a cross-platform programming magazine. And this mentions the Dragon 32, as well as the color computer, even for some things, as well as, the Atari and Spectrum and a bunch of others. So I'll just play the entire commercial because this is something, of course, we never saw here in North America.
I'd like to tell you about a really different software magazine called Input. It's a weekly course that program by program will help you get the most from your computer. And it's designed specially for many of the leading computers. Input's clear instructions will have you creating your own animation and sound effects to go with it. And teaches you to understand machine code by using it practically and imaginatively. Oi, leave it out. Input. Learn to program for fun and the future.
So it's mentioning it's specifically for the Spectrum 16 and 48K, the Commodore 64, the BBC Micro B, the Dragon 32, the Electron, and some programs for the ZX81, VIC-20, and Tandy Color. And the Tandy Color, of course, was not a huge seller in the UK because it was way overpriced compared to the Dragon. And of course, the Dragon had a better keyboard, came with 32K standard, whereas, Tandy Colors at that time came 16 or probably not, well, no, 64, I guess, was up by then. But
that would
yeah,
have been
it was
a good magazine, I reckon.
Yeah, the fact that they actually covered like machine language subroutines. This is one I've not really looked at. I'm kind of curious what they would mention.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of programs or games that were designed for like all the platforms, and tells you like change these lines for a Dragon. You'll even see the little symbols for the Dragon besides some of the changes even in the commercial itself here.
I wonder if we can find downloaded copies of the magazine.
That whole series is very, very cool. And it is definitely worth at least a read through once.
Is it on the Internet Archive then, or?
I don't remember where I got them, but yeah, it's somewhere out there.
Okay. But just to show you, it's kind of blurred here, this particular screenshot, but you can see like this Commodore logo here. So here's some changes for the Commodore, and here's the Dragon logo with changes for the Dragon. So it does cover a fair bit.
Your computer, and it's designed specially for many of the leading computers.
And you'll see the Dragon here is leading computers. The Dragon in 1984 was considered one of the leading computers in the UK. I know some of the younger set that I see on the Amigos, kind of poo-poo the Dragon, but I think they're too young to remember when the Dragon actually was one of the top, 2 or 3 bestsellers for months in the 83, 84 time frame. And then it kind of fell behind after that.
Quick search on archive.org shows Input Magazine in both Spanish and a couple other languages, it looks like.
Is English one of them?
Yeah.
It is on the Internet Archive, by the way.
Cool. How long did the magazine run? Does it kind of tell you what years it was out?
Look in here. Date published. Let's sort that.
Well, these are probably the 1997 ones.
Could be. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at the downloads. There's 52.
Yes. One a week for a year.
Yeah.
Well, this is a weekly magazine.
Well, I mean, they kind of had them all set up. It was, I think you did a subscription service and they just kept piling them at you. But each magazine covers kind of a specific topic. And then you get these examples for all the different computers that cover that topic. And when you go from the beginning to the end, then you've apparently learned to program.
Wait, then I know everything.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check this out. I think I've heard of the magazine before, but never really looked at it. So it's kind of like Compute, except it sounds like it's a bit more sophisticated on the programming level.
So the archive of 53 items says, published by Marshall Cavendish, United Kingdom during 1984 and 1986. Composed of 52 weekly editions.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out. So you've actually had some experience with this, Alan.
Oh, yeah, I read through them. They're pretty awesome. It's one of those where the British went really nuts with the put giant amounts of color illustration and have a giant theme and really, really go at it. So, yeah, they're really nice.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check this out.
I'm looking at a cover. It's got prices on there. It's even got an Australian price on it. I don't remember seeing it down here.
Does it have a American dollar value too? Like, was it sold in North America?
Yeah,
We just didn't. Or is it just pound and?
It's got UK 95 pence, Australia, New Zealand, Malta, Ireland, South Africa, and Singapore. No America, which is weird.
Yeah, so right on the front cover of issue 1, it says, a Marshall Cavendish computer course in weekly parts. 1, learn programming for the fun in the future with part 2, free.
Yeah.
Which I think I actually mentioned here in the ad, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm actually downloading issue 1 right now. I've got to learn how to program.
There you go.
Part 2 free. Yeah, it'd be interesting to check that out. So it's good to hear that's on the archive. I might have to take a buzz over there when I get some time. Next up on the Dragon, Stephen Goodwin has posted, first of all, the photo here of the Mandelbrot set being rendered in P-Mode 4. And based on Tony Jewell's original BASIC program. So this has been rewritten in C, I think CMOC in specific. It's also been rewritten in fixed point rather than floating point. So there's a big speed increase there from Tony's. Now, he does reference here, he said, rather than taking all day for Tony Jewell's version, his C version does it in less than an hour. And he hopes to improve on this in the future. Now, I know he's uploaded an update to it, I think this morning. So I'm not sure how much of a speed increase he got out of that, but he actually did upload a demo of the graphically version here. Now, he mentions on a description without rate limiting, so I'm guessing he's overclocking this because the video is only 10 minutes. And he was claiming, under an hour. I don't think he sped it up 6 times this morning. But I don't know how much of an overclock this is. So the way it draws, though, is a bit different than most Mandelbrot sets I've seen. So I thought I'd show a little bit at the beginning. I'll mute the music because that has nothing to do with the video. I think it's his own composition, but just in case. So most Mandelbrot sets I've seen drawn, maybe in the CoCo versions here, usually just draws it horizontally line by line, but he's actually doing it in chunks.
Like quadrants or something. Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that actually makes it more efficient in its calculations somehow compared to doing it normally. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, if you're doing fixed point calculation, that's definitely going to be, yeah.
You have to limit your size so your fixed point fits inside of the.
That's how they managed to do it with Fractant back in the 286, 386 days. That's how they did it with Fractant, is by going fixed point. Actually, Fractant was all integer.
Yeah. Well, a fixed point, I understand. Like that's definitely better than floating point because you don't have to keep shifting the mantissa around to match the exponent value.
You can only do a certain size chunk at a time. That's why he's got to do little squares to stay inside the bounds of his fixed point math.
Ah, okay.
So there's a square.
So here's accelerating it, unlocked.
Okay.
But it's a different way of generating it than I've seen most basic programs or C programs for that matter on the CoCo.
It makes sense in retrospect. Cool.
Yeah, I'll play the whole thing here. I'll just fast forward so you can see the result.
It's a brain. Or spinal cord.
Yep. So it looks pretty good. And obviously with CMOC, it's running a heck of a lot faster than Extended Basic. I think if I remember, there was a comment, I think by Tony Joe, the guy who wrote the original Basic one. I think that one takes about 8 hours to generate. And this one was taking less than an hour. So, you know, over 8 times faster, basically. And that's not possibly including the last change he did this morning.
Awesome.
Hey, if you're interested in it, here's the actual source code on his GitHub. And once again, you can refer to the show notes on the Discord and get the direct link here and you can download the code and take a look yourself. He's got a whole docking system here for doing assembly language for the Dragon 2, which I didn't get a chance to fully go through and even understand. But that sounds like he's got a whole cross platform thing that's kind of built into this too. We got some updates from Julian Brown, who was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he still is. So he's received version 2 of his SRAM static RAM boards. And then he says, I'm 99% done, stuck waiting on the right size inverter for you two, then I can mount it. So he's missing one part, otherwise he'd have it ready to go. And the second one is here. This one he posted not on the Facebook Dragon group, but he posted it on the World of Dragon archive forums. And this is a schematic here for his 6847 replacement. And I'll just read his kind of description here. So along with the new Dragon main boards I've been working on, one of my slow burn long-term projects has been a cost-effective replacement for the 6847 chip, kind of like a CoCo VGA, etc. I have a few parallel lines of work on this. At one end, I have an FPGA implementation, mostly coded, but needs a bit of work to finish the basics. A logic analyzer sampler for comparing synthetic output with the real 6847, bare metal coded on a Raspberry Pi, and a much simpler and hopefully cost-effective implementation based on the RP2040 chip, which is a chip I'm not familiar with. Anybody here familiar with that particular chip?
That's the Raspberry Pi one. That's the RPS. So I've seen it talked about. I haven't tried one yet, though.
Okay. He says the RP2040 version has been stuck in implementation hell for over a year while I concentrated on the main board hardware. The current board is designed to provide a very versatile set of outputs based around a raw analog RGB output, 3 bits per channel, as it is easier to verify through an oscilloscope, but the plan is to switch to digital DVI output once the core is working. This basically gives a video-only HDMI-compatible output. Mixing audio in would be problematic, but not impossible, and I think that's probably mainly due to HDMI's stupid licensing terms. If you want to put audio out on the thing, you have to pay a huge licensing fee. Yep. It is also possible to generate a YUV signal in the same way and feed that back through the main board, but I'm not sure of the benefits beyond keeping the consistency of the original design. And of course, if you're watching, you can actually see a picture of a board design to do this. So that's kind of cool. So I know the CoCo VGA is kind of in limbo until the chip gets changed, because that's one of the ones that went bye-bye in COVID. But yeah, it's cool that he's kind of approaching it from a couple different approaches. We'll see which one seems to have the best benefit, both cost-wise and maybe feature-wise. Maybe the FPGA version will have some more features like a CoPiCo does, like redefinable character sets and 64 by 32 text and a 16-color graphics mode, etc. All right, that is the news for this week.
Wow.
Wait, you sure?
We should go
You
do
positive?
something else.
We're
Well done.
positive.
And now go out and make more news.
Just
Yeah,
so.
probably some of you have been doing that during the show, which means I'm already behind. But
Right. We'll release it later.
is that what you're hinting at, David? Did you see some news I missed?
Indeed.
No, not really. Not unless you
Okay.
consider storms all over the place news.
I'm up.
Right. Those aren't news anymore. That's just normal.
Yeah, you guys are in recovery now, aren't you?
Yes. Last I looked, there were still like 50-some thousand people in the Omaha area without power.
Oh, I see. Jim Mullis has uploaded a video demo with Wonder Woman for his game.
Yeah, that was like this morning at about 20 minutes,
You're
30
like
minutes
4
in.
hours old now, man.
Yeah.
Keep up. Come on.
I'm showing just 20 minutes after the show started here.
Yep.
That was
So
4 hours ago, man.
Curtis
Yeah.
is going to go 24/7 news like CNN.
Yep. Just
Oh, yeah, we've been
right.
talking about that for a while now.
CoCo News Network. I like it.
wrote him on
Around the
rotate
news,
him
around the
different-
world, every 30 minutes.
Well, it's 108 here now.
Sweet.
So that means it's 44.
Yeah. Makes
Okay.
it tough to walk to the pool. You got to go fast.
Right.
Burn your feet, huh?
Actually, I'll since Jim already put the upload link here, I'll just quickly load it up, and I won't play the animations or anything here, but just to see what the Wonder Woman character looks like.
Yeah.
Let me fast forward it here. Reshare screen.
Wonder Woman.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming the
it's-
palette's kind of limited because the flesh tone looks a little off.
She's well tanned.
Yeah.
Right. Or something.
All the important parts.
With a
are
few
covered.
suntan oil spots or something, I guess. Yeah.
Keep fighting Santa Claus? Oh, no.
No, what's her projectile weapon? Or lasso? Okay.
Oh, that's so.
That's her lasso of truth, if I remember right.
Yep. Yeah. If you get captured, you have to tell the truth. And the old Radio Shack store in the background again.
Is this game heavy on memory use?
Yes.
It has to be.
It definitely requires 512K. Let's put it that way. Plus, he's loading all the background, for the scrolling landscapes and stuff in there, plus all the characters.
Plus all the Radio Shack stuff in the windows working.
They should do something about the bad guys on the roof, though. Come on, Radio Shack, get your act together.
Yeah, because they actually had a team up with DC Comics there when they were doing the Wonder Twins, whatever the heck they were called, the two kids that were TRS80 experts, and they'd help Superman and Wonder Woman and Supergirl and whoever else.
Yeah, the Whiz Kids.
Yeah, thank you. That's I was trying to
And
remember.
you should be in the store.
Yeah, I should. Hey, thanks, Jim, for that late update. I just managed to get it before the show ended.
All right.
We need a snipers on the roof game.
Too soon? Let's see. All right, we ready for the outro?
No, I
Yes.
suppose.
This concludes another episode of the CoCoNation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things the CoCoNation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCoNation show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCoNation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCoNation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server.
CoCo
The CoCoNation is over. Go home. Turn it
Yeah,
off.
but many of us are home.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
line
leave,
from-
What do I do?
leave the CoCoNation.
Let's see over here.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Please
Yes.
join us next week at the same bat time.
Granny.
Same bat channel. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Next week and on Thursday for the Game On Challenge. Well, maybe
Oh,
not me, but
yeah.
Yes, Thursday.
Let's do that.
Maybe I'll